So, in today's lecture, we'll be doing chapter 1, 2, and 7 of Business Studies of class 11. It's going to be a one shot video. So, let's start with the first chapter that is called Business, Trade, and Commerce. So, we are going to study the first thing, which is concept of business. So, business is derived from the word busy. So, business means being busy. However, if we say in specific sense, business refers to an occupation, means it's an activity or it's a type of work in which people regularly engage in activities. It's done on a regular basis. It's not that you are doing it once or twice in a week. That is not business. You have to do it on a regular basis to be called as a business. So in this type of activity, you are either purchasing a good, or your production of good is there, or sale of good is there, good or services, with the view of earning profit. So these activities are broadly classified into two groups. You have your economic activities and your non-economic activities. So there is a very simple difference between economic and non-economic activities. Economic activities are those activities which are done on a regular basis. These are done with the aim of earning profit and are done to sustain a livelihood, whereas non-economic activities are those activities which are performed out of love, sympathy, patriotism, sentiment, etc. For example, for economic activity, you can write worker working in a factory, doctor operating in a clinic, manager working in an office, teacher teaching in a school. So why are they doing this? Are they doing this because they wish to know? They're doing this because they're earning money out of it. So they are doing so to earn their livelihood, and therefore they're engaged in an economic activity. On the other hand, if we see a housewife who is cooking food for her family, or or a boy who is helping a old man to cross a road, so these people are doing this activity because out of love, sympathy. So this is a non-economic activity. Now your economic activity are further classified into three categories. You have your business, profession, and employment. Further on, we'll be seeing the difference between these three, which is very important. So business is an economic activity. If they ask you business is non-economic or economic activity, so it's an economic activity. It involves the production, sale of goods and services with the motive of earning profit by satisfying human needs in the society. All right, then we have this small question here. Is barter system an economic activity? Give reasons for your answer. So you will write no, barter system is not an economic activity because it involves the concept of double coincidence of wants, and it's not done on a regular basis. So it cannot be termed as an economic activity. Next, we are going to be seeing the characteristics of a business activity. So how do we know that activity that is being performed is business activity or not? That is why we study some characteristics of business activity. So first of all, it is an economic activity. As I already mentioned, business is considered to be an economic activity because it is undertaken with the objective of earning money or livelihood, and it is not done out of love, affection, sympathy, any other emotion. It can also be said that business can be taken up by a small at a small individual level, or it can be at a more large or formal scale. At both levels it can be performed. Second is there is production or procurement of goods and services. Production means when you make that good, and procuring means when you obtain that good or when you buy that good. So before goods are offered to people for consumption, these must be produced or procured by a business enterprise. Means before you give your goods to the people out there, before you offer the good to people for consumption, they have to be produced or procured. Means either they have produced by the business enterprise or they are bought from the business enterprise. Suppose so these can be either produced or procured. So thus every business enterprise either manufactures the good it deals in or acquires them from producers to be further sold to consumers or their users. So good may consist of consumable items, like they have given you example: sugar, ghee, pen, anything such like this. Or services can be like facilities offered to consumers, such as business firms, organizations in the form of transportation, banking, electricity, etc. Okay, then the third characteristic that we see is going to be sale or exchange of goods and services. So basically, directly or indirectly, business involves transfer or exchange of goods and services for a value. If goods are produced not for the purpose of sale, if I'm producing something not for the purpose of sale but for personal consumption, means for myself, then it cannot be called a business activity, because I'm not earning anything out of that. It's for my personal use. So it cannot be termed as a business activity. Suppose you're saying cooking food at home for the family is not a business activity, right? Because you're doing it for, you're not earning anything out of that. But if you say that you are cooking food and selling it to others in a restaurant, this is a business, because you are selling it. You're earning something out of that. So, thus, one essential characteristic of business is that there should be sale or exchange of goods and services between the seller and the buyer. There should be sale, exchange of goods and services between the seller and buyer. Fourth characteristic is dealing in goods and services on a regular basis. So business involves dealing in goods or services on a regular basis. One single transaction of sale or purchase does not constitute a business. Just by saying that one single transaction has been made, you cannot be called a business enterprise. Thus, for example, if a person sells his or her domestic radio set even at profit, even if you earn profit, suppose you are selling your radio set even at profit, it is not considered as a business activity. Why? Because he or she is not selling that on a regular basis. But if he or she sells the radio sets regularly and is earning profit out of that, then it can be called a business activity. But if he or she is not doing that on a regular basis, still is earning profit, it cannot be called a business activity. It has to be done on a everyday basis. Fifth characteristic is profit earning. So this is the main purpose of business. Why is it the main purpose of business? Because whenever you open a business, your aim is to earn profit. So no business can survive for long without profit. Business invests in a lot of capital when it starts. So it expects that it will gain from that capital in which it has invested in. So your business cannot survive for long without profit. If you're not getting profit out of your business, you cannot survive for long, because there's uh, so many things that you have put in your money. So you would want that to come back to you as profit. So that is why businessmen make all possible efforts to maximize their profits by increasing the volume of sales or reducing the cost. So that is why you would observe that they would increase the volume of their sales or they reduce cost of the production. Like suppose you might have seen there are some products that might not be getting sold off very easily, so the producer or the manufacturer would reduce the cost of that product so that people tend to buy it. Okay, the sixth characteristic is uncertainty of return. So uncertainty of return refers to the lack of knowledge relating to the amount of money that the business is going to earn in a given period. Basically, when you start up a business and when you start executing that business, you do not know that how much money that business is going to earn. So you do not know. So this is uncertainty of return, that you are not sure whether it's going to get you profit, or will you have profit, or will it result in loss. So there is a uncertainty which is involved in a business activity. So every business invests money to run its activities with the objective of earning profit, but it is not certain as to what amount of profit will be earned. So there is always a possibility of losses being incurred despite the best efforts put into the business. Your last characteristic is element of risk. So risk is a uncertainty associated with the exposure to loss. So it is caused by unfavorable undesirable events. Risk can be also related with factors like change in customers taste and fashion with the growing up of customer changes, a lot of customer change their what they like to buy, so that is also a risk that is involved in your business activity. Or there can be change in method of production, or there can be strike or any such thing. So no business can basically altogether do away with the risk. So there is no particular type of business that is there that can completely go off with the risk. Every business has some type of risk involved in it. Now we are going to see one of the most important topic. What we saw, your economic activity can be divided into three major categories, that is your business, profession and employment. So we are going to see the difference between these three. So business is basically an entrepreneur's decision and other legal formalities if necessary. So first we are going to see mode of establishment. So business is a single person's decision. Profession, on the other hand, is a membership of a professional body, and certificate of practice means you need to be qualified to enter into a profession. Employment, on the other hand, how do you get employed is by appointment letter or a service agreement. Second, nature of work. So business is basically deals or provides you goods and services to the public. Profession is rendering personalized expert services. Employment, when you perform work as per your service contract or your rules of services that is provided by your company. Third is qualification. So for business there is no minimum qualification that is necessary, because it's a sole decision, so you do not need a lot of qualification. Profession, on the other hand, it requires expertise, means you need to be highly qualified to be able to run that profession, and you need training as prescribed by a professional. It is a must, means it has to be there. For employment, qualification and training is there, and it is as prescribed by the employer. Fourth is reward or return. So in case of business you get your profit, in case of profession you get your professional fee, and in case of employment you get your salary or your wages. Fifth is capital investment. So for your business you have to capital investment is required as per the size and nature of business. That is the main thing that a business requires, is capital investment. For profession, limited capital is needed for establishment. And for, suppose you are opening your own, suppose you are practicing medical and you're opening your own, say you're opening your own institute of medical where you practice medical, and you're so over there you need capital, so limited amount of capital is needed. So then for employment you do not need capital, it's provided by your company, so you do not know capital is required basically. Then risk, for business your profits are uncertain. As I said, there is always uncertainty of return and element of risk. So profits are uncertain and risk is present in business activities. For your profession, your fee is generally regular because you might be doing it under someone, so your fee is generally regular, though there is some risk also involved in your professional activities. For your employment, it is fixed and regular, and there is there is barely any risk that is involved, because your wages or salary, those are fixed for according to your company's act. So then we have transfer of interest. So for business, your transfer is possible with some formalities. For profession, it is not possible. For your employment, it is not possible. Then you have code of conduct. Code of conduct is basically some rules that are laid down that a person or a company or enterprise should follow. In case of business, you do not have a code of conduct. In case of profession, you have a code of conduct and it has to be followed. Employment, you have norms of behavior that are laid down by the employer and they have to be followed. For example, for your business you have your shops or your factories. For profession, you have your legal medical profession, chartered accountancy professionals, surgeons or some legal lawyers or medical profession. Then for your employment, you have jobs in banks, insurance companies, government departments, etc. Next, we are going to see classification of business activities. So, various business activities are classified into two broad categories: industry and commerce. So, industry is concerned with production or processing of goods and materials, and commerce include those activities which are necessary for facilitating the exchange of goods and services. So, basically, industry, like we say, sometimes we say that cotton textile industry, or we say electronic industry. So what does this mean? You are the industry is concerned with production, means you are concerned with making or you're processing the goods. Commerce is those activities that help to facilitate the exchange of goods and services, transportation, all of this comes under commerce. In commerce, you are not making those goods and services, but you are helping them to be exchanged to the desired consumer. So, on the basis of two categories, we classify business firms into industrial and commercial enterprises. So, industry refers to economic activities which are connected with conversion of resources into useful goods. Generally, term of industry is used for, we'll leave this. So, these include activities related to producing or processing of goods, as well as breeding and raising of animals. So the term industry is also used for a mean groups of firms producing similar or related goods. So industry is also used for those groups or firms that produce similar related goods. If you don't understand this line, it's okay. We'll understand in the example. So, for example, when we say cotton textile industry, now when I say cotton textile industry, I am referring to all the manufacturing units that are producing textile goods of cotton, not just a single, but all of these. So, industry, when we say industry, we refer to all those industries that are producing similar or related goods. Similarly, electronic industry would include all the firms that are there in your country that are producing electronic goods and so on. So industries are further divided into three broad categories. You have your primary industry, secondary industry, and tertiary industry. So, just to give an overview, in your primary industry, you have two types. You have your extractive industries, your genetic industry. Then, in your secondary industry, you have again two types. First is manufacturing industry. Under manufacturing industry, you have four types. You have analytical industry, synthetic industry, processing industry, assembling industry. Your second secondary industry is known as your construction industry, and lastly you have your tertiary industry, which is your backbone for your primary and secondary industry. So primary industries are those, it includes all the activities which are concerned with the extraction and production of natural resources. Whenever you have to extract and product production of natural resources are being done, this is known as your primary industry. This is your first stage. Okay, so primary industry is further divided into your extractive industries. So extractive industries are what? These industries extract natural they extract or draw products from natural sources. Basically they're like the extractive industries supply basic raw materials that are mostly products of geographical or natural environment. So products of these industries are transformed into useful goods by your manufacturing industry that comes under your secondary industry. So, important extractive industries include farming, mining, lumbering, hunting, and fishing operations. Lumbering basically means when you cut trees. Okay, so second industry under your primary industry is your genetic industries. So these industries are engaged in breeding of your plants and animals for their further use in reproduction. So seeds and nursery companies are those which actually they grow plants and trees for further resale. So seeds nurseries companies are very typical examples of your genetic industry. In addition, activities of your cattle breeding farms, poultry farms, these all come under your genetic industry. Then your second type of industry that is there is your secondary industry. So these are concerned with using materials which have already been extracted by the primary sector. So using those materials which are already produced is done by a secondary industry. So these industries process such materials to produce goods for your final consumption or for further processing. For example, mining of iron ore is a primary industry job. When you mine iron ore, that is done by your primary industry, but manufacturing of steel from that iron ore is a secondary industries work. So secondary industries is further divided into, firstly you have manufacturing industry. This is very very important. So this line that you see till utilities is extremely important. So manufacturing industry, so these industries are engaged in producing goods through processing of raw materials and thus creating form utilities. These industries are engaged in producing goods through processing of raw materials. You are making goods by processing raw materials, and they create form utilities. So they bring out diverse finished products that we consume or use through the conversion of raw materials or partly finished materials in their manufacturing operations. Manufacturing industries are further classified into four categories. You have your analytical industry. Analytical industry is that in which analyzes and separates different elements from the same element material, as in the case of oil refinery. Oil refinery, in oil you will see a lot of different elements are there, but it is the same material. The material is your oil, but you are there's so many elements involved in that oil. So to analyze and separate these elements, this is known as your analytical industry. Second type is your synthetic industry. It combines various ingredients into a new product, as in the case of cement. So in cement you will see that a lot of ingredients are combined to make a new product. Third, you have processing industry. So this involves successive stages for manufacturing finished products, as in the case of sugar and paper. So there are a lot of stages involved for manufacturing your finished product. This is your processing industry. Fourth one is your assembling industry. Assembling industry, as the word suggests, when you are assembling different parts to make a new product, is called your assembling industry. Like in the case of TV, your car, your computer, there's so many parts involved in that. So you're assembling those different parts to make your new product. Second type of secondary industry is your construction industry. So these industries are involved in the construction of buildings, dams, bridges, roads, canals, tunnels. Engineering and architectural skills are important part in the construction industry. So you must have engineering, you must have architectural skills to have a to run a construction industry. Third type of industry that you see, the last type, is your tertiary industry. So these are concerned with providing support services to primary and secondary industries. So that's why these are called as your backbone of your primary and secondary industries. This industry helps in the smooth working or smooth functioning of your primary and secondary industries. So these industries provide service facilities. As business activities, these may be considered part of commerce. Why are these called as commerce? Because what we studied, commerce are those activities that are undertaken to Commerce are those activities which are necessary for facilitating the exchange of goods and services, such as I gave you example transportation. So that is exactly what we are going to see in tertiary industries. You have your transport. So that is why it is considered a part of commerce, because it is a auxiliaries to trade. It helps activities, they assist the trade. Included in this categories, you have your transport, you have your banking, you have your insurance, warehousing, communication, packaging, advertising. We'll see all of this further on. Okay, so these are your three types of industries. Next topic is commerce. So commerce includes two types of activities. You have your trade and you have your auxiliaries to trade. So buying and selling of goods is termed as trade. What is trade? When you buy something and you sell something, that is termed as trading. So there are a lot of activities that are required to facilitate the purchase and sale of goods. So to purchase your goods or to sell those goods, there are a lot of other activities that are also involved. So these are called as your services, or in formal words, auxiliaries to trade. This includes your transport, your banking, insurance, communication, advertising, packaging, warehousing, PR, all of these. So commerce therefore includes both your buying of goods and your selling of goods, trade as well as auxiliaries such as transport, banking, whatever we did. So commerce provides the necessary link between producers and consumers. It embraces all those activities which are necessary for maintaining a free flow of goods and services. So how do you have a free flow of goods and services in such a way that there is no obstruction in between? This is provided by your commerce. So thus, all activities which involve the removal of all hindrances. Hindrance is what? Hindrance is the obstacle, right? So those activities which involve the removal of that obstacle in the process of exchange of goods and services is called as commerce. So hindrances may be in respect of person, place, time, risk, finance. Hindrance of person is removed by trade, making goods available to consumers from the possession or ownership producers. Transport removes the hindrance of place by moving goods from place of production to markets for sale. Storage and warehousing activities remove the hindrance of time by facilitating holding of that stock or goods to be sold as and when required. Goods held in stock as well as goods in course of transport are subject to risk of loss or damage. So when you hold goods in stock, suppose milk cannot be, it does not have a long shelf life, so when it is held in stock it might get spoiled, or even during course of transportation there are chances that it might get there's a risk of loss or damage due to theft, fire, accidents, etc. So protection against these risks is provided by your insurance of goods. When you get your goods insured, so these risks get the bearance of that risk. That means, suppose if in any uh, a cause, because of any cause, if your good gets damaged, you have insured that good, means you don't have to bear a lot of loss that has been incurred. So, a capital required to undertake the above activities is provided by banking and financing institutions. So, how do you get insurance? By your banks, you get by financial institutions. Okay, advertising makes it possible for producers and traders to inform consumers about the goods and services. How do you tell the consumers that I have produced this product, my product is better than that company's product, or my product is at a very reasonable rate? How do you do so? By advertising your product. So commerce is said to consist of activities that remove the hindrance of person, place, time, risk, finance, and information in the process of exchange of goods and services. Now we'll see trade and auxiliaries to trade. So trade is an essential part of commerce, as we have seen. It refers to the sale or transfer or exchange of goods either physically or virtually. It helps in making goods produced available to the consumers or users. These days, goods are produced on a large scale, and it is difficult for producers to themselves reach out to individual buyer for selling their products. Businessmen are engaged in trading activities to make goods available to consumers in different markets. In absence of trade, it would not be possible to undertake the production activities in a large scale. So activities which are meant for assisting trade, some there's few activities that help trade to be done easily or smoothly. These are called auxiliaries to trade. Auxiliary basically means helping to do something. So these activities are generally referred to as service because these are in the nature of facilitating and trade. So these activities are generally referred to services because these are in the nature of facilitating and activities relating to industry and trade. Transport, banking, insurance, warehousing, advertising are regarded or as said to be as auxiliaries to trade. So these activities play a supportive role. In fact, these activities support not only trade but also your industry. It is not only trade, but it also helps your industry and hence the entire business activity. Auxiliaries are an integral part of commerce. Means they're an important part of commerce in particular and business activity in general. These activities helps in removing various hindrances which arise in the connection with the production and distribution of goods. Transport facilities, movement of goods from one place to another. Banking provides financial assistance to manufacturer and trader. It provides you insurance. Insurance covers various risk of covers various kinds of business risk. Warehousing creates the time utility by way of storage facilities, and advertising provides information to consumers about the products that are produced by the producers. In other words, these activities facilitate movement, storage, financing, risk coverage, and sales promotion of goods. Auxiliaries to trade are discussed briefly below. So, for exam point of view, you don't have to read all of this. You just need to know what are the auxiliaries to trade. First, it is your transport and communication. So production of goods generally takes place in particular locations. You don't have to know all these locations. Just need to know that your production of goods are done on specific they are done on a specific locations. Okay. These goods are required for consumption in different parts of country. Suppose if we are talking about India, your cotton, if we say, it's produced in Gujarat, but your consumption of cotton would be required as in India as a whole. So the obstacle of place can be removed by transport. How can your obstacle means how can that problem of uh, shifting that good to entire India be removed by transport? Through your road, your rail, or your coastal shipping. Facilities, movement of raw material to place of production, and the finished products from factories to the place of consumption. So, raw transport facilitates movement of raw material to place of production and finished products from factories to the place of consumption. Along with transport facility, there is also a need of communication facilities so that producers, traders, and consumers may exchange information with one another. Thus, postal service, your telephone facilities also is regarded to as auxiliaries to business activities. Second auxiliaries to trade is banking and finance. So business activities cannot be undertaken unless funds are available for requiring assets. So um, there are very few business activities that can be done without taking loans and all. But mostly, if we see, business activities cannot be undertaken if unless we take loans and funds from the banks or financial institutions. So this is, it's taken for acquiring assets, for purchasing raw materials, and meeting other expenses. So necessary funds can be obtained from by the businessman from the bank. Thus, banking also helps business activities to overcome the problem of finance. Commercial banks generally lend money by providing overdraft and cash credit facilities. Means there are commercial banks which generally study the financial conditions of the business, and they see if they are financially capable. They provide overdrafts also. So banks also undertake collection of checks and all. So this line is very important. It comes usually as a one marker. Commercial banks also help promoters of companies to raise capital from the public. Commercial banks, they also help promoters of the company. Promoters, we will see in the further chapter, promoters are those people who undertake the activities of running your business or firm. They are supporting your and smooth functioning of your business or firm. So commercial banks also help promoters of companies to raise your capital from your public. Okay. Third auxiliary to trade is insurance. So business involves various types of risk. Your factory, building, machinery, furniture. It has to be protected against your fire, theft, and other risks. So materials and goods help in stock. They are never free from risk. They always have some risk that is attached to them, a risk of loss or damage. So employees are required to be protected against the risk of accident, occupational hazards. Insurance provides protection in all such cases. So you pay a nominal premium. This insurance is usually called as a premium service because not all people can afford to take insurance. So it is termed as a nominal premium, means it's at a very small price you get insurance, but at the same time it's called a premium because not many people want to avail this. The amount of loss or damage and compensation for injury, if any. So if in case you have a loss or damage in any of your good what you're producing, you get a compensation. Means you get your amount back for the loss that has incurred. It can be recovered from your insurance company. Fourth type of auxiliary to trade is warehousing. So usually goods are not sold or consumed immediately after production. Whenever you produce goods, it is not necessary that they're consumed immediately or they're sold immediately. So you need a place where you can hold these stocks for for a short period of time, until and unless you don't get the order. So they are held in stock to make them required as and when. Special arrangement must be made for the storage of goods to prevent them from loss and damage. There are certain types of goods. Suppose I gave you example of milk. Maybe it is not consumed immediately or not sold immediately, but you know that it will get spoiled if it's kept in open for long. So you need to make arrangements which have to be done to prevent your loss. If it gets spoiled, then that is a loss for you. So, warehousing helps the business firms to overcome the problem of storage and facilitates the availability of goods whenever it's needed. Prices are thereby maintained at a reasonable level through continuous supply of goods. Your last auxiliary to trade, an important one, is advertising and public relations. So, there is a very old saying that advertising is what you pay and PR is what you pray for. It means for advertising your products, you have to pay. You have to pay. Means you would have seen a lot of big billboards on the roadsides. So those are advertisements that are done by a company to promote their brand. So for that they pay to the whoever owns those billboards. So that is what you pay for. But for PR, your public relations, you do not pay for that. Whenever commoners who work for a company, they see that your company, other company is progressing a lot, they come as PR to promote your company. So this is what you pray for. So both advertisement and PR are tools of commerce. Influence and promote your product. They both influence and promote your product, services, or idea to your potential customers and motivate your target customers to recognize what are all your accomplishments. Advertising and PR activities are one of the most important methods of promoting the sale of products. Whenever you have to promote your product sale, whenever you have to boost your product's market value, you always tend to advertise it so that your target audience get to know that you also are there to provide your goods and services. You are also a potential producer. So it is practically impossible for producers and traders to contact each and every customer or consumer. So it is not possible at all that the producer can contact every target audience and tell them that this is what we have and all that. So thus for promoting sales and information is made available through your advertisement and publicity tools about their features, your price, about your product, etc., to the potential customers. Also there is a need to persuade potential customers. So even there are few customers who might be your target audience, but still you have to persuade them into buying your goods, and you have to tell them, the buyers, about the features, the quality, the price, and the competitive information about the goods and services, etc. So the publicity of such attributes of your products and services are done using various techniques of maintaining public relation tools. So the popular PR tool is used of press release in print and social media platforms. Advertising and PR activities help in providing information about the available goods and services and including customers to buy the particular items. So advertisements are always a paid activity where business occupies space in your billboards or in any way, any sort of way they wish to. Whereas PR activities, on the other hand, are normally unpaid, where business enters into a strategical communication to build a mutually beneficial relationship. Okay, so then we have objectives of business. So, whenever you start up a business, you always have some objectives in mind that you would want to fulfill. So, an objective is the starting point of business. You can read this as of now, it's not that important. So one main objective of business is earning money, profit, as we say. But although earning profit is not the only objective of business, its importance cannot be ignored, of course, but it cannot be the only objective of business. Every business is an attempt to reap more than what has been invested. How much has been invested in the capital? Every business, every firm would want it. Suppose you invest 1 lakh in your capital, or say not 1 lakh, that's too less, 1 crore in your capital. So you would always want that your capital gives you more than how much you have invested, right? And profit is the excess of revenue over the cost. Profit can be regarded as an essential objective of business for various reasons. So why is it regarded as an objective of business for various reasons? If this question comes in your exam, why is profit regarded as an objective of a business, so you will have to write this. Okay, so profit is regarded as an essential objective of business because it is a source for income for business persons. You get income from that. It is the source of finance for meeting expansion requirements. Of course, every business, when it meets its desired profit, it would want to expand. So from profit, why is it an objective? Because it can be a source for expansion. Third, it indicates the efficient working of business. Maybe people who are maybe potential investors of that company, who want to invest in the company, would want to see the portfolio of the company, so they would get to know from the profit that the business is working efficiently. And it can be taken as the society's approval of the utility of business, and it builds the reputation of the business enterprise. This is very important. Every business has to build its reputation over time, so that people gain trust in that business. Until and unless the business does not give trust, or does not work towards gaining trust from the people's end, it cannot be at its full potential. All right. So, however, too much emphasis on profit to the exclusion of other objectives can be dangerous for good business. What does this line mean? It means that when a business stress that I am doing it only for profit, I don't care about any other objective, my aim is profit, this can be dangerous for a good business. Why is it dangerous? We'll see. So being obsessed with profit, your business managers will neglect other responsibilities towards customers, employees, investors, and society at a large. There are some social responsibilities that have to be undertaken. So it is not always about earning profit. They may even be inclined to exploit various sections of the society to earn immediate profit. Okay, so this may result in your non cooperation or even opposition from the affected people against the malpractices of business enterprise. So the enterprise might lose the business and may be unable to earn profit because of these reasons. So this is essential for its own survival and prosperity. Now we are going to see what are the various objectives of business. What are the various objectives of business? So firstly, objectives are needed in every area that influences survival and prosperity of business. So business has to balance number of needs and goals to require to it requires multiple objectives. It cannot follow one objective, that is profit, 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 and expect to achieve excellence. So objectives have to be specific in every area and sphere of business. Objectives also enable business to analyze their own performance and take steps to as necessary to improve their performance in future. Some of these areas are described as follows. First of all, the first objective of business should be its market standing. Second should be innovation. Third should be productivity. Fourth should be physical and financial resources, and your fifth one is earning profit, and your last one is social responsibility. This is the most important one. So, first one, market standing, it talks about your reputation of one's business to succeed further. Your business should have goodwill, it should have a reputation. It helps in forming a distinct identity in the market and is referred to as market standing. What is your market standing? That is very important for a business in relation to its competitors. Suppose there's so many electronic industries out there, so how are you distinct from the others? That is your market standing. How is your reputation distinct from others? So a business enterprise must aim at standing at a stronger foot in terms of offering competitive products at a reasonable price to its customers and serving them to their satisfaction. Second is innovation. This is very important. Innovation is central to the growth of any business enterprise. It is the central idea to growth of a business enterprise. It helps business to scale up and give competitive edge to the enterprise in the market. Innovation is defined as introduction of new ideas or methods in the way something is done or made. You are giving different ideas, or you're giving different methods about how something is done or how something is made. However, it is not it does innovation doesn't always mean that you're making a new product, right? It does not always mean that you're making a new product or some new technique is being implied. No, it can be used to your existing product also. Any modification in the existing product to enhance its operation also denotes in innovativeness. Okay, so there are two kinds of innovation in every business. First is innovation of product or service, or innovation in skills and activities needed to supply that product and service. No business enterprise can flourish in the competitive world without innovation. So you cannot say that your business is not innovative, because you cannot grow without innovation. So therefore innovation becomes a very important objective of your business. Third is productivity. Always your business should be productive. All right, productivity is ascertained by comparing value of output with value of input. Means how what are they saying? Productivity, how can it be measured? When you compare the value of your output. Suppose my input, how much effort I gave in making that product, suppose it is 5 lakhs, but the output I get out of that means how much market value I'm getting out of that product is just 3 lakh. So my productivity is not as your value of product and value of input should mostly be equal, or in some cases should be greater. Means your value of output should be greater than value of input. But if it is less than, if your value of output is less than your value of input, then your productivity is not as good. You can still improve. So in order to ensure continuous survival of progress, every enterprise must aim at a greater productivity through the best use of your available resources. You should always aim that even with the set of resources that you have, even if you feel that your resources are not sufficient, still you should aim at your greater productivity of that particular resources. Fourth objective of business is physical and financial resources. So any business requires physical resources. If you're starting up any form of business, whatever say, you should have machinery, you should have office, you should have capital, you should have all of these, etc. All types of assets basically. And financial resources also, like funds to be able to produce and supply goods and services to customers. Business enterprise must aim at acquiring these resources according to their requirements and should use them efficiently. Fifth and the most important objective of business is profit earning or earning profits. One of the objectives of business is to earn profits on the capital employed. Profitability refers to the profit in relation to the capital investment. How much you have invested to your capital, on basis of that, that is your profit. Every business must earn a reasonable profit, which is so important for its survival and for its growth. No business can survive without profit for a long period of time. We studied that in characteristics. Sixth and the most important, you can say, objective of business is social responsibility. So apart from earning profit, your aim should also be social responsibility, which is, it refers to the obligation of a business firm to contribute resources for solving social problems and work in a socially desirable manner, so that your society also gets satisfied with your the way you work. All right, now we'll see business risk. So this paragraph you can read if you want. Out of this is important, this line may come. Now, what is business risk? So the term business risk refers to possibility of inadequate profits or losses due to uncertainties or unexpected events. Means a possibility of inadequate profit. Inadequate means not as much as you expected. Yes, we say that there is uncertainty of return, but still you would feel that the product you're producing would have a great profit in the market, but you're not getting as much as you desired, so that is inadequate. Or losses can also be there because of uncertainties or unexpected events. Okay, so this is very important. What are the two type of risk involved in a business enterprise? First risk is your speculative risk, and second is your pure risk. So speculative risk is, it involves the possibility of your gain and loss. Speculative risk में क्या होता है, you have the possibility of gain and you have the possibility of loss as well. Speculative risk arises due to change in market conditions, including fluctuations in your demand and supply, change in price or change in fashion and taste of consumers. Favorable markets conditions are likely to result in gains, whereas unfavorable result in loss. That's common sense. If your market conditions are favorable, they are favoring your business, that will result in a gain. Whereas if there is unfavorable ones, it results in losses. Pure risk is that which involves only loss. Only loss. Speculative may you have your loss and you have your gain and your loss. But in your pure risk you have only loss. It's a pure loss. Pure loss or no loss, but it is loss in both cases. So the chance of fire, theft, strike, other are examples of pure risk. So their occurrence may result in loss, whereas non-occurrence may explain absence of loss instead of gain. Okay, so non-occurrence can explain absence of loss, but there is no gain. Even if there is no occurrence of that, there is no fire, there is no strike, still there is loss only. You do not say it as a gain. These are the two types of risk. Nature of business risk are these types of business risk. If they ask you what are the two types of business risk, speculative, pure, you will explain these. Nature of business risk we are going to see. Now that we are going to see, so nature of business risk, we have four type of nature of business risk. Then we are going to see cause of business risk. Do not confuse nature and cause. Okay, nature of business risk, cause of business risk. What is the causes of it? First, nature risk is an essential part of every business. So every business has some risk involved in it. No business can avoid risk. Every business would have some risk involved in it, and no business can altogether go away with the risk. Risk, it varies from business to business. Maybe some a particular type of business has risk involved in it. Maybe it is something which is uncertain, very uncertain, means you do not know what is the gain you're going to get, and there are huge chances of loss. So that risk is different. And maybe you are comparing it with, suppose you're comparing a trading company with a normal company, so trading company would have more risk involved in it, while as a normal working company would have less risk. So it varies from business to business. Risk can be minimized, you can minimize your risk, but you cannot eliminate your risk. Okay, so if there's a true and false, can or not true and false, yes or no question, can risk be eliminated? No, it cannot be. It can be minimized but not eliminated. Second, you have business risk arise due to uncertainty. So uncertainty refers to the lack of knowledge about what is going to happen in future. A businessman, or anyone for that matter, does not know what is going to happen in the future. So the lack of knowledge about what's going to happen in future is termed as uncertainty. Natural calamities, change in demand and prices, change in government policies, prices, improvement in technology, all of these are examples of uncertainty which create risk for the business, because the outcomes of these are not known. These can either be profitable or they can lead to loss for the business, but you do not know what are the outcomes of this. Third is degree of risk depends mainly upon the nature and size of the business. So basically, nature of business means type of goods and services that are produced, and size of business means what is the volume of production, are the main factors which determine the amount of risk in the business. For example, a business that is dealing in the fashionable items has a high degree of risk, because maybe in future there's a change in customers taste, or there is some other factors that are there. Maybe they would have a high degree of risk in that case, right? Similarly, a large scale business generally has a higher risk than a small scale has, because a large scale would be producing such volume of goods that there is uncertainty whether it would be sold or not sold, so there's a higher risk, whereas a small scale would have lesser risk involved in it. Common sense, yeah. Fourth, nature of business risk is profit is a reward for risk taking. This is very important. No risk, no gain is an age old principle. Which implies to all business. So, if you do not take a risk, you do not get a gain. If you just sit out there and expect money to come to you, that's not going to work. You have to take risk to earn something. Greater the risk involved in the business, there's a higher chance of profit. Of course, if you take a risk, there are chances of loss also, but in some way or the other you have to take that risk. So an entrepreneur undertakes risk under the expectation of higher profit. Profit is thus a reward for risk taking. Now, next, you have your last topic of this chapter, that is cause of business risk. Under this, also, we have four types of cause of business risk. First cause is natural cause. You have natural cause, human cause, economic cause, and you have your other causes. Natural cause is human beings have little control over natural calamities, means we don't have control basically over natural calamities like flood, earthquake, lightning, heavy rains, famine. All of these cause a very uh, a very great risk to the business, because if there's floods, earthquake, these destroy the firms and business heavily. It leads to a lot of losses beyond their expectations also, you can say. So these are some natural causes. Then human causes, these happen due to unexpected events, like you have dishonesty, carelessness, negligence of employee, stoppage of work due to power failure, strikes, riots, management inefficiency. Suppose there you have a factory in which you have highly flammable objects, and this worker has kept some device or something open for a very long time, which shouldn't have been kept open, and that caused fire in that in the factory or in your shop. So that is a human cause. It is happening because of carelessness. So these are human causes. Then you have economic causes. So these include uncertainties relating to demand for goods, Economic causes like your there is a lot of fluctuation, inflation is there, change in technology is there, your method of production is getting changed, and financial problems also, like interest rate is very high, levy of higher taxes is there. So these also type of causes as they result in higher unexpected cost of business or operation. Other causes, there are unforeseen events like political disturbances and mechanical failures. Maybe the country is facing some type of, there's a war like condition. So this is some other causes also. And fluctuations in exchange rates, these also lead to the possibility of business risk. So this is all of chapter 1, business, trade and commerce. Next we are going to move on with our second chapter, that is forms of business organization. So in forms of business organization, we are mainly going to see five types of business organization in depth, their features, merits and demerits. In the last topic, we are going to study about company, that is the most important type of business organization. So the five types of business organization that we'll be studying is going to be sole proprietorship, joint Hindu family business, partnership, corporate society, and joint stock company. Okay, so starting off with the first type of business organization, we are going to see sole proprietorship. So, sole proprietorship is a popular form of business organization and it is more suitable for small businesses, especially in the initial years of operation. So, if you're thinking of starting a business, you would tend to start a sole proprietorship because there are a lot of very less risks are involved in this type of business. Though there are risks, they also have unlimited liability, but still. So, sole proprietorship refers to the form of business organization which is owned, means you are owning it, you are managing it, and you are controlling by an individual who is a recipient, who is the sole recipient of the all the profits and the bearer of all the risks. So, you're the sole person who is owning, managing, and controlling that business, and you are the recipient, means you are the one who is getting all the profits, and you are the one who is bearing all the losses or the risks. So this is evident from the term itself. The word sole implies to only and proprietor means owner. Hence, a sole proprietor is the one who is the only owner of the business. So this form of business is particularly common in areas of personalized services like you have your beauty parlors, etc. Okay, now we're going to see the features, some salient characteristics of sole proprietorship. First is formation and closure. So there is no separate law that governs sole proprietorship. You don't have any law that governs your sole proprietorship, and there are hardly any legal formalities that is required to start up a sole proprietary business. Though in some cases you might require a license, means if you're in any case, if you're a liquor shop, opening a liquor shop, or something like this, you might require license in some cases, but usually you do not have a lot of legal formalities. And closure of businesses can also be done easily, means it can be found easily also, and it can be closed easily as well. Thus, there is ease in formation as well as in closure of business. I'm going to be covering this chapter, the second and seventh chapter, a bit quickly because I've already discussed these in the videos that I've uploaded. First chapter I had not done, so I explained you in depth, but the second and the seventh chapter I'm going to be covering fast. Okay, for better explanation you can see the prior videos that I have uploaded already. So thus there is ease in formation as well as closure of the business. Second characteristic is liability. So sole proprietors have unlimited liability. This implies that the owner is personally responsible for the payment of debt. So if your business assets are not sufficient for repaying your debts, the personal possessions of the sole proprietor can also be used. They have given an example here, you can read this. Third characteristic is sole risk bearer and profit recipient. The risk of failure of business is borne by all alone by the sole proprietor. Means if the business suffers any risk, I mean, of course there'll be risk, but if the business suffers losses or anything of that sort, it is all alone handled by the sole proprietor. There is no one who is going to help him or her. However, if the business is successful, the proprietor enjoys all the benefits. He or she does not have to share it also. So in both ways, he or she is I mean, like firstly, Yes, they are risk, but secondly you will see, so even if there is successful, if the business is successful or earning profit, the proprietor is enjoying that as well. He receives all the business profits, he or she receives all the business profits, which becomes a direct incentive or a reward for his risk bearing. Fourth characteristics is control. The right to run the business and make all the decision lies in the hand of the sole proprietor. He can carry out his plans without interference from others. He doesn't have to consult anyone else to make decisions or to implement the decisions. Fifth is no separate entity. In the eyes of law, there is no distinction made between your sole trader and business. Means your business and your businessman in case of sole proprietorship is the same in the eyes of law. So, as business does not have a distinct identity separate from its owner, the owner is therefore held responsible for all the activities of the business. So, anything that is happening in your business, you are the sole person who is responsible for that. Sixth, you have your lack of business continuity. So, the sole proprietorship business is owned and controlled by one person. It is the so therefore if that person has is dies or is going through insanity, imprisonment, physical ailment, bankruptcy of the sole proprietor, it will have a direct and detrimental effect on the business. Means your business gets directly impacted, means because you're the sole owner, there's only one owner. If that owner dies or if anything happens with that owner, your business will get closed. Okay, so these are some characteristics of your sole proprietor form or business organization. Now we are going to see some merits. Sole proprietorship offers many advantages. Some of the important ones are as follows. First is quick decision making. A sole proprietor enjoys considerable degree of freedom in making business decisions. As I've already said, he or she does not have to consult anyone else in taking decisions. There is quick decisions can be made, and this there is no need to consult others, so this leads to timely capitalization of market opportunities as and when they arise. You can exploit those market opportunities. Second, confidentiality of information is there, means your information that is there, it can be kept secret apart from the public. Okay, so sole decision making authority enables proprietor to keep all the information related to business operations confidential and maintain your secrecy. Sole trader is not bound by law to publish your firm's account. Like in case of company, when we see further in the end, the last type of business organization, we'll see that they are mandatory to publish all the information to public in case of a public company. But in case of sole proprietor, you are not by law bound to publish your firm's accounts, books of accounts. Third is direct incentive. Incentive is basically the reward that you get for the risks you take. Direct incentive means direct reward. Sole proprietor directly receives the benefits of his or her efforts as he or she is the sole recipient of all the profit. The need to share profits does not arise as he or she is the single owner. So this provides maximum incentive to the sole trader to work hard. Fourth is sense of accomplishment. So there is a personal satisfaction involved in working for oneself. So when you work for yourself, when you're earning money for yourself, when you're the sole person who is getting incentive and all of that, you have your personal satisfaction in your work that is there. So the knowledge that one is responsible for the success of business, it not only contributes to self satisfaction, but you also get, the individual gets a sense of accomplishment and confidence in one's abilities. Then, fifth point, we have ease of formation and closure. So, an important merit of sole proprietorship is the possibility of entering into business with minimal legal formality. So, this is an important advantage for sole proprietorship. Because you require very little legal formalities. If you compare it with other type of business organization, you will see that they require intensive formalities are there. But for sole proprietorship, you need very minimal legal formalities. There is no separate law that governs sole proprietorship. So, sole proprietorship is least regulated form of business, and it is easy to start and close the business as per the wish of the owner. Whenever the owner wants to start the business, he can start, he or she can start. Whenever the owner wants to close, he or she can. Okay, now we'll see limitations. With every advantage, there is a disadvantage. So, notwithstanding various advantages, sole proprietorship form of organization is not free from limitations. Some of the major limitations of sole proprietorship are as follows. First is limited resources. Now you think you are a single owner. How much can you afford? How much resources can you afford? Not much, right? Resources of sole proprietor are limited to his or her personal savings and borrowings from others, and your banks and lending institutions or financial institutions, they might hesitate to extend a long term loan to sole proprietor because they know that you are a sole proprietor. All the benefits that you're getting are on a small scale, right? So they know that there are instances that wherein you would not have sufficient to repay, so they hesitate to extend you long term loans. Lack of resources is one of the major reasons why the size of the business, it really grows much and generally remains small. So that is one major reason why your business remains to a small scale. Personalized services are only there, like beauty parlors, stationery shops, as we saw. Second, you have limited life of business concern. Sole proprietor business is owned and controlled by an individual, so death, insanity, imprisonment, physical ailment, or any other such thing, bankruptcy of the proprietor affects the business and can lead to the closure. Third demerit, you have unlimited liability. A major disadvantage of sole proprietorship is that the owner has unlimited liability. So the if the business fails, the creditors can recover their dues not only from the business assets but also from the personal possessions or the personal assets of the proprietor. Like suppose if the assets of the business are not sufficient to repay the debts, they can even they can the proprietor is also bound to sell his or her property, capital, and or machinery or whatever personal belongings he or she has. So, a poor decision or unfavorable circumstance can create serious financial burden on the owner. That is why your sole proprietor, you will see they're very less inclined to take risk in the form of innovation or expansion. They take of course the innovation is there, but they are not very inclined towards taking a lot of innovation or expanding their business a lot because of these reasons. Fourth and your last demerit is limited managerial ability. So owner has to assume the responsibility. Assume, why they saying assume? Because there's no one else to manage that. So it is assumed that he or she is the one who has to take the control of that. Responsibilities such as your purchasing, selling, financing. It is rare to find an individual who excels in all these areas. So it is very rare where you'll see a person who is, a real multi-talented, and it is he or she is, can do a managerial task like purchasing, selling, financing by a single person. It is very difficult to find such a person. Thus decision making is not balanced in all the cases. Also, due to limited resources, sole proprietor is not able to employ and retain your talented, ambitious employees. Though sole proprietor suffers from various shortcomings, many entrepreneurs opt for this form of business organization because of its inherent advantages. It requires less amount of capital. It is best suited for business which are carried out on a small scale and where customers demand in personalized services. All right, so with this, we are done with our first form of business organization. Moving ahead with our second form of business organization, we have joint Hindu family business. So, joint Hindu family business is a specific form of business organization that is only found in India. It is one of the oldest forms of business organization in the country, and it refers to the form of organization wherein business is owned and carried on by the members of the Hindu undivided family. Means it is that type of organization where the business is owned, means you own the business, and it is carried on by the members of your Hindu undivided family. This is governed by your Hindu law. The basis of membership in business means how can you get into the business is by birth in a particular family, and three successive generations can be members in the business. Business is controlled by the head of the family, who is the eldest member usually, and is called the karta. All members have equal ownership rights over the property of ancestor and are known as co-partners. So Karta is the head of the family, or you can say eldest member. He is the one who is responsible for the efficient working of the business. But under the Karta, all the other members of the business are called co-partners. Alright, let's see some features of so also one more thing, your karta can be either male or female as per your Hindu Succession Amendment Act of 2005. Okay, then we are going to see features. So the some characteristics of joint Hindu family business. First is formation. So the joint Hindu family business, there should be at least two members in the family and ancestral property to be inherited by them. One of the most important thing of JHUF is that there should be ancestral property. The family should have ancestral property to be called as a JHUF business. Okay, the business does not require any agreement as your membership, means there's no written or anything done as to get membership in business in your JHUF, but the membership is by birth. It is governed by a Hindu Succession Act 1956. Okay. Second, liability. Liability of all the members except the Karta is limited to their share of co-partnery property of the business. Karta, however, has unlimited liability. So all the co-partners that are there, means all the people who work under Karta, have limited liability to their share in the co-partnery property, but your karta has unlimited liability. Third is control. The control of the family business lies with the karta. He takes all the decisions and is authorized to manage the business. His decisions are binding on the other members. Whatever decisions he takes has to be abided or has to be followed by the other members of the family. Fourth is continuity. Business continues even after the death of the karta. So this is one major advantage of your JHUF, that even after the death of the karta, the business is not over. The next eldest member of the family takes the position of karta. Thus, the business is stable, unlike your sole proprietorship. In sole proprietorship, what we saw that if the sole proprietor goes through death, insanity, or bankruptcy, or any physical ailment, the business comes to an closure there and then. But in case of JHUF, even after the death of Karta, the next eldest member of the family takes up his position and the business is again stable. The business can be terminated. It can be terminated with the mutual consent of all the members. Alright, fifth and your last feature is minor members. So the inclusion of an individual into the business occurs due to birth into the Hindu undivided family. How can so minors can also be members of the business? How do you get into the business? By birth. And minors can also be members of the business. All right, then we see merits. So advantages of joint Hindu family business are as follows. First is effective control. So karta has the absolute decision making power. This is the advantage and disadvantage. How? Because as a disadvantage you have dominance of karta. As an advantage, effective control is there. Because the karta has absolute decision making power, it avoids conflicts among members, because no one can interfere with his rights. Maybe if he did not have the full absolute control, other people, if some person A would say something, person A is a co-partner, Suppose the full power wasn't with karta, it was distributed equally among everybody. Suppose a co-partner A would say something that does not that the co-partner B does not like. This would lead to conflicts, but now we see that karta is having the absolute decision. So in this case there is effective control, no one can interfere with his rights to decide. this leads to your prompt and flexible decision making. Prompt decision can be made, okay, and flexible decision can be made. Second, merit is your continued business existence. As I already told you, the death of the karta will not affect the business, as the next eldest member of the family takes the place of the karta and leaves the business stable. Hence, operations are not terminated and continuity of business is not being affected or threatened. Third, limited liability of members. Liability of all the co-partners except the Karta is limited to the share of co-partnery property, and consequently their risk is well defined and precise. Each member knows their risk because they know that how much capital they're investing, that is their risk. And it is precise also. Fifth and your last merit, fourth and your last merit is increased loyalty and cooperation. Since all the members of these business are belonging to a single family, you can say, so there is increased loyalty and cooperation. Since business is run by members of a family, there is a greater sense of loyalty towards one another. Pride in the growth of business. When you see a growth in the business, it is linked to the achievement of the family. This helps in securing better cooperation from all the members of the family. There'll be a greater sense of loyalty will be there, and cooperation will also be better because people belong to one family are running the business. So now moving on with the limitations of JHUF. First, we have limited resources, just like your sole proprietorship. Even for JHUF, the it faces the problem of limited capital as it depends mainly on your ancestral property. So this limits the scope for expansion of your business. Second, you have unlimited liability of Karta. Karta is burdened not only with the responsibility of decision making and management of business, but also suffers from the disadvantage of having unlimited liability. So the Karta has to take decisions, is responsible for the decision making of the decision making and the management of the business, but he or she suffers from your unlimited liability also, and his or her personal assets can be used to pay the to repay the business debts as well. Third, you have dominance of Karta. So, Karta individually manages the business, which may at times not be acceptable to other members. This may cause conflict among them, and can also lead to the breakdown of the family unit. So, in several cases, it has been observed that the business sometimes it's not acceptable by other family members, that the karta is taking the business decisions, and all the decisions that are made by karta has to be abided. Sometimes there are conflicts that happen, and this leads to the breakdown of the family unit. Fourth is limited managerial skill. So, since Karta cannot be expert in all the areas of management, business suffers as a result of loss of his or her unwise decisions, and his or her inability to decide efficiently can also result in poor profits or even losses for the organization. So with that, we are done with the JHUF. So the joint Hindu family business is on a decline because of diminishing number of joint Hindu families in our country. That is India. Okay. So with this, we are going to start with partnership now. So, for partnership, what we are going to see over here is going to be basically partnership. So, the inherent disadvantage of sole proprietorship is financing and managing and expanding business. Okay, so as we saw in sole proprietorship, it is actually very difficult for the proprietor to actually take the risk of expanding his or her business because of lack of long term funds and loans. Because of this, it paved way for partnership as a viable option, means as an alternate option. All right, so partnership serves as an answer to the need of a greater capital investment, varied skills, and sharing of risk. So, Indian Partnership Act 1932 defines partnership as a relationship between persons who have agreed to share the profit of the business carried on by all or by any one of them acting for all. So, your Indian Partnership Act of 1932 governs your partnership, form a business organization. What is partnership? What is the definition of partnership? It is the relationship between persons who have agreed to share the profit of the business carried on by all. Means, suppose you have five people in your partnership, so all five are carrying them, or out of those five, one is carrying out the business for all rest of the four. Okay, so let's see the features of partnership now. So definitions given above point to the following major characteristics of partnership form of business organization. First is formation. The partnership form of business organization is governed by the Indian Partnership Act 1932, and it comes into existence through legal agreement wherein terms and conditions governing the relationship among partners, sharing of profit and losses, and the manner of conducting the business are specified. It may be pointed out that business must be lawful, means it must be legal, and it has to be run with the motive of profit earning. Thus, two people coming together for charitable purposes will not constitute a partnership. All right. Secondly, you have liability. The partners of a firm have unlimited liability, and personal assets are used for repayment of business debts. Okay. So, in case business assets are insufficient. Further, the partners are jointly and individually liable for repayment of the debts or for the payment of the debts. The partners are jointly means all of them and individually liable for the payment of debts. Jointly, all the partners are responsible for the debts and they contribute in proportion to the share in business capital, how much ever business capital they have invested in, only that amount they have to repay, and as such are liable to that extent. Individually too, each partners can be held responsible for repaying the debts of the business. However, such a partner can later recover from other partners an amount of money equivalent to the shares and liability defined as per the partnership agreement. Third, you have risk bearing. Partners bear the risk involved in running a business as a team. All right, the reward comes in the form of profits, which are shared by the partners in a share agreed ratio. All right. However, they also share losses in the same ratio in the event of the firm incurring losses. Fourth, we have decision making and control. Partners share among themselves responsibility of decision making and control of day to day activities. Decisions are generally taken on mutual consent. Thus, the activities of a partnership firm are managed through the firm joint efforts of all partners. Means partners share among themselves responsibility of decision making and the control of all the activities that they do on a daily basis, and all the decisions that are taken are done on a mutual consent. It's not that one partner takes up a decision and that is executed immediately. No, he has to take the consent of all other partners in that business, because each of them have agreed upon some terms and conditions already. So you have to consult others also in that business and take mutual decisions. So the activities of partnership firm are managed through the joint efforts of all the partners. For fifth, we have continuity. Partnership is characterized by lack of continuity. Means in a business, death, retirement, insolvency, or insanity of any member can bring an end to the business. However, the remaining partners can desire to continue the business on basis of new agreement. Suppose any partner of that business dies, retires, insolvency or insanity is there, the business ends. But if any of the partners mutually decide that they want to continue the business further, they can, but they have to form a new agreement. You can't continue it on the existing agreement. You have to form a new agreement. All right. Then we have number of partners. So the minimum number of partners needed In a partnership firm, to start a partnership firm is two, and the maximum number of partners can be 50. All right, then we have mutual agency. Definition of partnership highlights the fact that it is a business carried on by all or any one of the partners acting for all. In other words, every partner is both an agent and a principal. This line is very important. Okay, they can ask you how is a partner a agent and a principal, true or false, or they can ask you every partner is both as an MCQ agent principal, option C agent and principal, option D or none of the above, like that, something like that. This line is important, can come to um, explain also in the light of above statement, explain. So it's an important line. So in other words, every partner is both an agent and a principal. So he's an agent of other partners as he represents them and thereby binds them through his acts. He is a principal as to he can be bound by the acts of other partners also. All right, then there are some points describe the advantages of your partnership firm. Few merits we are going to see. First, we have ease of formation and closure. A partnership firm can be formed easily by putting an agreement between the prospective partners into place whereby they agree to carry out the business of the firm and to share the risk. There is no compulsion with respect to registration of firm, means it's not necessary that you have to register your firm. Okay, so closure of the firm is also an easy task. Second, you have balanced decision making. So there is a specialized field of work is there, and like it works on basically whatever a person is specialized to do, he or she works on his field, his or her field of expertise. Means it's not that they're limited people. So even if you're not good or not not experting in that particular field, you are working for it. It's not necessary. Only people who are specialized in that field of work, they work accordingly. So partners can oversee different functions according to areas of expertise, because individual is not forced to handle different activities. This not only reduces the burden of work but also leads to few error in judgment. Suppose I am giving you a job in which you do not specialize, so you might tend to make mistakes, right? Because you do not know anything about that. Suppose I give the same job to a person who is expertise in that field or that line of job, so he or she might make very less errors or make no errors because he or she is specialized in that field of work. So there's a balanced decision making. As a consequence, decisions are likely to be more balanced, efficient decision making. Third, you have more funds in partnership. The capital is contributed by a number of partners. Okay, so this makes it possible to raise a larger amount of funds as compared to sole proprietorship and undertake additional operations whenever needed. Fourth, you have sharing of risk. So risk involved in running partnership firm are shared by all partners. Means all the risk that is there can get spread along with all the um, partners. Because why it can get spread with all the partners? Because so there's so many partners, you can have maximum 50 partners. So you so the risk that is there or the losses that have been incurred can be shared by all partners. This reduces the anxiety, the burden and stress on an individual partner. You don't need to worry that if the business incurs any loss, that you are the only one who has to all the risk will be on. No, you don't have to worry about that because the risk is being shared on an agreed ratio. All right, then you have fifth thing, secrecy. Like the sole proprietor, we saw confidentiality of information. Same way for partnership, we are going to see that partnership firm is also not legally required to publish its reports. Hence it is able to maintain confidentiality of information relating to its operations. All right, then we are going to see limitations or demerits of partnership firm. Okay, first is unlimited liability. So partners are liable to repay debts even from their personal assets or possessions in case the business assets are not sufficient to meet its debts. The liability of partners is both joint and several, which may prove to be its drawback. For those partners who have greater personal wealth, they will have to repay the entire debt in case the other partners are unable to do so. So this the liability of partners is both joint and several. Both joint means it's in a group you're liable, means share of liability is there, and it is a drawback for those partners who have greater wealth, who have greater amount of wealth than others, because they are liable to pay in case in the entire debt in case the other partners are not able to do so. This is a very big drawback. Second, limited resources. There is a restriction on number of partners and hence contribution. Yeah, wherever you will see minimum, maximum partners came. So of course, there's a restriction on the number of partners. Hence, the contribution in terms of capital investment is not usually sufficient to support your large scale business operations. As a result, partnership firms face problems in expansion beyond a certain size. All right, then we see there is possibility of conflict. So partnership is run by a group of persons wherein decision making authority is shared. Difference in opinion on some issue may lead to disputes between partners. Further decisions of one partner are binding to other partner. Thus an unwise decision by someone may result in financial ruin for all. Means the decision that you're taking can sometimes be unwise, right? So that unwise decision is affecting all of the other partners also. So in case a partner desires to leave the firm, this can result in termination of the partnership. Means this will lead to the closure, as there is a restriction on transfer of ownership. Means it's not that you are retiring or you die or something, anything physical ailment of that sort happens to you, there is a restriction on the transfer of ownership. You can't run the firm after anybody retires or any physical ailment is recorded. You have to, if so you want to continue, you have to do that on a new agreements basis. Okay, fourth one, you have lack of okay, lack of continuity. So partnership comes to an end with the death, retirement, insolvency, lunacy of any partner. It may result in lack of continuity. However, the remaining partners can come into fresh agreement and continue to run the business. They have to form a new agreement basically. Fifth, we have lack of public confidence. So as we saw in one of its merits, the last merit, what we saw, secrecy. Partnership firm is not legally required to publish its books of accounts. So in that case, what happens is you are not legally required to publish the financial report of or other related information to the public. So it is difficult for any member of the public or as a public as a whole to ascertain the true financial status of your partnership firm. They do not know that are you actually what you show. So the confidence of public in partnership firms is generally low. Okay, now we are going to see another topic, then we'll get back to types of partners. So we are going to see minor as a partner. So usually they ask the difference between minor as a partner in your partnership and as in your JHUS. So in JHUF you saw there is no agreement required to get membership in JFU. Membership is based on birth, and minors can also be members in the business. For minor as a partner in partnership, partnership is based on a legal contract between two persons who agree to share the profits of the business, profits or losses of business, okay, carried on by all or by one acting for all. As such, a minor is incompetent to enter into valid contract. Means he is not incompetent. Means uh, is not as such, a minor is incompetent to enter into valid contract with others, means he is not that old enough to enter into a valid contract, mature enough to enter into a valid contract with others. He cannot become a partner of in any firm. However, a minor can be admitted to benefits. So if they ask you, can minor be a partner? No, minor cannot be a partner in partnership business, uh, partnership business organization, but he can be admitted to benefits of partnership firm with the mutual consent of all partners. If all partners agree, then only he can be admitted to few benefits. In such cases, his liability will be limited to the extent of capital contributed by him and in the firm. Rest members are having unlimited liability, right? We studied that in one of its demerits. There is unlimited liability. But in case, see, in case of sole proprietorship, JHUF and partnership, in all these three cases your liability is unlimited. But in your corporate society and joint stock company, it's limited. Okay. And secondly, remember, in all these three, your personal assets or your personal possessions are used to repay the debts if your business assets are insufficient. Coming back to minor as a partner, so he or she can get benefits of partnership firm with mutual consent of all other partners. In such case, his her or her liability is limited to the amount of capital contributed by him or her in the firm. He or she will not be eligible to take active part in management of firm. Thus, a minor can share only profits and cannot be asked to bear the loss. He or she can only share the profits but cannot be asked to bear the loss. However, if he or she wishes to inspect the accounts of the firm, he or she can do so. The status of a minor changes when he or she attains majority. So, whenever he or she attains age above 18, which is considered to be majority, the status of the minor changes. In fact, on attaining majority, the minor has to decide whether he would like to become a partner on the firm or not. He has to give a public notice of his decision within 6 months of attaining majority. This is important. If he or she fails to do so within the stipulated time, which is 6 months, he will be treated as a full fledged partner. So, if he does not give a public notice of his decision, he will be considered as a full fledged partner irrespective of anything, and will become liable, means he will be given unlimited liability because now he has attained majority in the same way as other active partners are. All right, so this is as a minor as a partner in your partnership form a business organization. Now we are going to see types of partners. So types of partners, first you have your active partner. Okay, before that, a partnership firm can have different types of partners with different roles and liabilities, and understanding of these types is important for a clear understanding of their rights and what responsibilities they have. So these are described as follows. First, you have your active partner. So, as the name suggests, active means who is actively involved in contributing capital. He or she participates in the management of the business of firm and shares its profit and losses, and is liable to an unlimited extent, means have unlimited liability to the creditors of the firm. These partners, they actually take part in carrying out the business of the firm on behalf of the other partners. Second, you have sleeping or dormant partner. So, partners who do not take part in everyday or day to day activities of business are called sleeping partners. A sleeping partner contributes capital to the firm, it shares the profit and losses, and has unlimited liability. But why is it different from active partner? Because it does not take actively part in the management of the business. Means they do not take part in day to day activities of the business. Third, you have secret partner. Secret partner is one whose association with the firm is unknown to the public. Okay, his or her association with the firm will not be known to the general public. Other than this distinct feature, in all other aspects, he is like the rest of partners. He contributes to capital of firm, takes part in the management, shares profit and losses, and has unlimited liability towards the creditor. Nominal partner is one who allows the use of his or her name by the firm but does not contribute its capital in its capital, does not take active part in management, does not share profit and loss, but has unlimited liability for the repayments of the firm's debts. Okay, so nominal partner is one who allows the use of his or her name by the firm, but he or she does not contribute in the capital, not taking active part in managing firm, does not share profit and loss, but has unlimited liability. Fifth one, we have partner by estoppel. This is important. A person is considered a partner by estoppel if through his or her own initiative, conduct, or behavior, he or she gives an impression to others that he or she is a partner of the firm. Okay, so such partners are held liable for the debts of the company or the firm because in the eyes of the third party they are considered as partners even though they do not take part in capital or in the management, and they don't share profit and loss also. Suppose, let's give you example. Rani is a friend of Seema who is a partner in a software firm called Simplex Solution. On Seema's request, Rani accompanies her to the business meeting with Mohan. So Seema requested Rani. Seema is the actual partner of this firm. And Rani is a friend of Seema. On the request of Seema, Rani accompanies her to a business meeting with Mohan Softwares. And Rani also actively participates in negotiation process for the business deal and gives the impression to Mohan that she is a partner in Simplex Solution. So if credit is extended to Simplex Solution on basis of these negotiations, Rani is also liable for the repayment of the debt as if she is the partner of firm. So if a person is giving a through his or her own initiative or behavior, she's giving an impression to others that he or she is a partner of the firm. So for your partner by estoppel, they do not contribute capital, they do not participate in management, they do not share profit and loss, but they have unlimited liability. Now your last type of partner, you have partner by holding out. This is important. So a partner by holding out is a person who, though is not a partner of a firm, he or she is not considered as a partner of the firm, but knowingly allows herself or himself to be represented as a partner in the firm. Such a person becomes liable to outside creditors for repayment of any debts which have been extended to the firm on the basis of such representation. In case he is not really a partner and wants to save himself from liability, because if he is showing himself as a partner, then he is giving an impression and he will be having unlimited liability. But if he or she is not really a partner and wants to save himself or herself from that liability, he or she should immediately issue a denial clarifying his position that he is not a partner in the firm, and he does not if he does not do so, he will be considered as a partner and be responsible to the third party for the debt. So again, he or she is not contributing capital, not managing in the not managing business firm, does not share profit and loss, but again has unlimited liability. All right, so partner by holding out is a person who is not a partner in the firm but knowingly allows himself or herself to be known as a partner in the firm. All right, so let's see a short difference between the six of these. So active partner contributes capital, participates in management, shares profit and loss, but has unlimited liability. Sleeping or dormant partner contributes capital, does not participate in management. That's why they're called sleeping partner. Shares profit and loss and has unlimited liability. Secret partner contributes capital, participates in management, but is done secretly, shares profit and losses, has unlimited liability. Nominal partner does not contribute capital. He or she does not participate in management, does not share profit and losses, has unlimited liability. Partner by estoppel again does not contribute capital, does not participate in management, does not share profit loss, has unlimited liability. Lastly, partner by holding out, the same as your partner by estoppel. Usually they ask you what is partner by estoppel, so you will say a person is considered partner by estoppel or if he or she through their own initiative or behavior gives an impression to others that he or she is a partner in the firm. That is partner by estoppel. All right. Okay. Next, So partner by holding out usually is also asked. Partner by holding out is a person who, though is not a partner of firm, but knowingly allows himself or herself to be represented as a partner of the firm. Okay, so moving on with types of partnership. So, partnership can be classified on the basis of two factors. Firstly, it can be duration, and on basis of liability. On the basis of duration, we have two types of partnership. One is partnership on at will, and particular partnership. On the basis of liability, there are two type of partnership, with limited liability and the other with unlimited liability. So, classification on basis of duration. Firstly, you have partnership at will. This type of partnership exists at the will of the partner. Okay, so it can continue as long as the partners want. Okay, and it is terminated when any partner gives a notice of withdrawal. So, whenever the partner gives a notice of withdrawal, the partnership ends at that point of time. Okay, particular partnership is when a partnership is formed to accomplish a particular task or project, say construction of a building or an activity to be carried off for a specific period of time, is called particular partnership. It dissolves automatically when the purpose for which it was formed is fulfilled, or when the time duration gets expired. Now, partnership classification on basis of liability, we have general partnership, which is also called as limited partnership. Sorry, which is also called as unlimited partnership. So, in general partnership, liability of partners is unlimited and it is joint. Partners enjoy the right to participate in management of firm, and their acts are binding on each other as well as on the firm. Registration of the firm is optional. The existence of the firm is affected by the death, lunacy, insolvency, or retirement of the partner. Limited partnership, on the other hand, in limited partnership, liability of at least one member is unlimited, whereas the rest have limited liability. Such a partnership does not get terminated on with the death, lunacy, or insolvency of the limited partner. The limited partners do not enjoy the right of management, and their acts do not bind the firm or any other partners. Registration of your limited partnership is compulsory. Alright. So this form of partnership was not permitted in India earlier. The permission to form partnership firms with limited liability has been granted after the introduction of new small enterprise policy 1991. This is important. It can come in exam as a one marker. So the permission to form a partnership with limited liability has been granted after introduction of new small enterprise policy in 1991. The idea behind such a move has been to enable the partnership firms to attract equity capital from friends and relatives who of small scale entrepreneurs who were earlier reluctant to help due to unlimited liability. Okay, clause in the partnership form of business. All right, with this we are going to start partnership deed. So partnership deed is a very important. It usually comes as a three marker in your exam. After this, we'll study registration of partnership. That is again very important. It can come as a three marker in exam. After that, we'll be starting with your corporate society. After corporate, we have our last topic, that is joint stock company. All right. So, firstly, partnership deed. So, partnership is actually a voluntary association of people who come together for achieving a common objective. In order to enter partner into a partnership, a clear agreement with respect to the terms and conditions and all aspects concerning the partners is necessary so that there is no misunderstanding later among the partners. Such an agreement can be oral or can be written. Even though it is not essential to have a written agreement, it is advisable to have a written agreement as it constitutes an evidence if something or the other goes wrong in near future. So it acts as the evidence when you present yourself before the court. All right. So you can either have a oral or a written agreement. Why this agreement is termed? Because in partnership there are a lot of people who are coming together, and you need to have clear agreement in respect to terms and conditions and aspects concerning partners so that in future there is no misunderstanding. So Again, as I said, it can be oral or written. It is advisable to get a written one because it acts as evidence in your future. If you have to, if anything happens wrong in your company, you can present that before the court. All right. So the written agreement which specifies the terms and conditions that govern partnership is called the partnership deed. So the written agreement, not the oral agreement, the written agreement which constitutes or specifies the terms and conditions that govern the partnership is called your partnership deed. So, partnership deed generally includes the following aspects: your name of firm, nature of business, duration of business, investment by each partner, distribution of profit or loss, duties and obligation of partners, salaries and withdrawals of partners, the term governing admission, retirement, expulsion of partner, the interest on capital, interest on drawings, procedure for dissolution of firm. Dissolution means the closure of your firm, and preparation of accounts and their auditing. Lastly, method of solving disputes. So, name of firm, nature of business, duration of business, investment made by each partner, distribution of profit and loss, duties and obligations of each partner, salaries and withdrawals of the partner, term governing admission, retirement, expulsion of a partner, interest on capital, interest on drawing, procedure for dissolution of firm, preparation of accounts and their auditing, and method of solving disputes. All right. Now, last topic of partnership is registration. So, registration of partnership firm is necessary in case of which, in case of a company which has limited liability, it is compulsory. All right, it is compulsory. See, it's written over here. Okay. So, what is registration? Registration of partnership firm means entering the firm's name along with relevant prescribed particulars in the register of firms kept with the registrar of firms. Okay, so it provides conclusive proof of the existence of partnership firm. So, there are some cases wherein they set up these firms as just to earn profit and they just run away with the money. All right. So, to keep as a conclusive proof, as a firm proof that existence is actually legally there, you have to register your partnership. All right. It is optional for a partnership firm to get registered. In case a firm does not get registered, it is deprived of many benefits. Deprived of many benefits means it does not have such benefits that we are going to read further. So, consequences of non-registration of a firm are as follows. Firstly, a partner of an unregistered firm cannot file a suit against a firm of or an other partner. The firm cannot file a suit against third parties. A firm cannot file a case against the partners. In view of these consequences, it is therefore advisable for the firm to get registered according to the India Partnership Act 1932. The partners may get the firm registered with the registrar of firms of the state in which the firm is situated. Suppose you are stated in MP or you are stated in, say, Gujarat or Maharashtra. So, according to that state, you get your registration done. Registration can be at the time of formation or any time during existence. So either you get it done on the date when you are forming the company or during the time the company is going, during its existence period. The procedure for getting firm registered: you have to submission of application in the prescribed form to the registrar of firms. Application should contain following particulars: name of firm, location of firm, name of other places where firm is carrying out the business, date when each partner joined the firm, name and address of partner, and duration of partnership. Alright, that this application should be signed by all the partners. Deposit of required fees with the registrar of firms. Registrar will, after approval, will make entry in the register of firms and will subsequently issue a certificate of registration which shows that you are registered under the Companies Act 2013. Alright. Next, we have corporate society. So, this is our fourth type of business organization: corporate society. Now, as I mentioned earlier, corporate society and your joint stock company both have limited liability. Okay, as per the share of capital. So, the word corporate means working together and with others for a common purpose. Corporate, you're cooperating with others, you're working together with others, and you have a common purpose. All right. Corporate society is a voluntary association of person. It is a voluntary association of person means, if you will to come together, if you want to come join, you can join. It's a voluntary association of persons who join together with the motive of welfare of the members. They are driven by the need to protect their economic interest in the face of possible exploitation at the hands of middlemen obsessed with desire to earn greater profit. So basically, what corporate society, it basically sells the goods uh, at a reasonable price. Usually, middlemen, they are obsessed with earning greater profit, so they exploit. They do a lot of exploitation. They try to exploit the people of the people at a lower level of society by putting very high rates on goods which are not actually the real. They are very distinct from the real rates. They try to exploit the lower section of the society. So corporate society actually, it is with the motive of welfare, and they protect the economic right interest and rights. Okay. So corporate society is compulsory required to be registered. Now your corporate society is compulsorily required to be registered under the Corporate Society Act 1912. The process of setting up a corporate society is simple enough, and at most what is required is the consent of at least 10 adult persons to form the society. Capital of society is raised from its members through issue of the shares. Society acquires a distinct legal identity after registration. So after you get your society or corporate society registered, it acquires a distinct legal identity. Okay. So let's see some features of your corporate society. So first of all, we have voluntary membership. So the membership of a corporate society is voluntary. No hard and fast rule is there. You want to join, you can join. You don't want to join, okay. So a person is free to join a corporate society and can also leave anytime as per his desire, his or her desire. There cannot be any compulsion for him to join or quit a society. Although procedurally a member is required to serve a notice before leaving society, according to procedures you are required to give a notice or a formal thing, or that you are leaving the society usually. But there is no compulsion to remain a member. Membership is open to all irrespective of your gender, caste, religion, anything. Okay. It's open to everybody. Second is legal status. So registration of a corporate society is compulsory. This accords to a separate identity to the society which is distinct from its members. The society can enter into contracts and hold property in its name, sue and be sued by others. As a result of being a separate legal entity, it is not affected by the entry or exit of its members. Third is limited liability. Liability of the members of corporate society is limited to the extent of the amount of the capital that they are being contributing. How much ever capital is being contributed, that is their liability that they have to fulfill. Not more than that, not less than that. This defines the maximum risk that a member can be asked to bear. Fourthly, control. In a corporate society, the power to take decisions lies in the hand of an elected managing committee. The right to vote gives the members a chance to choose the members who will constitute managing committee, and this lends to corporate society a democratic character. Important. Basically, what happens in a corporate society, power to take decision lies in hands of elected managing committee. Okay. They have the decision making power. Okay. The right to vote gives the members a chance to choose the member who will constitute the managing committee. Okay. And this lends the corporate society a democratic character. All right. So, fifth feature is your service motive. So, the corporate society is usually aimed towards social welfare. Through its purpose lays emphasis on the values of mutual help and welfare. Hence, the motive of service dominates its working. If any surplus is generated as a result of operation, it is distributed among members as dividend in conformity with the bylaws of society. Bylaws are those laws that are in addition to the existing laws. All right, so additional laws basically. So if any surplus is being generated as a result of the operation, it gets distributed among members as dividend. Dividend is the reward basically, as a dividend. Okay, among the members. All right. Now, merits. So, corporate society offers many benefits to members. Some of the advantages of form of organization are as follows. Firstly, there is equality in voting status. Right. That is how corporate society gets a democratic character. So the principle of one vote governs the corporate society. Irrespective of amount of capital contribution by a member, each member is entitled to only one vote and equal voting rights. Secondly, limited liability. Liability of members of corporate society is limited to the extent of their capital contribution. Personal assets of members are safe, means even if the business is in debt and the business assets are insufficient, still your personal assets of the individual is safe. All right. Third is stable existence. So death, bankruptcy, insanity of the member do not affect the continuity of corporate society because it has a distinct legal entity. All right. A society therefore operates unaffected by any change in the membership. Fourth is economy in operation. So members generally offer honorary services to the society, as the focus is on elimination of middlemen. Middlemen usually exploit the resources they are given by putting them on a very high price, which is usually not the real price of that commodity. So they focus on eliminating these middlemen. This helps to reduce the cost. Customers or producers themselves are members of society, and hence the risk of the bad debt is lower. Risk of bad debt is lower. Fifth, support from government. The corporate society exemplifies the idea of democracy, and hence it also finds support from your government in the form of low taxes, subsidies, low interest rates on loan, etc. Sixth and the last merit is ease of formation. So corporate society can be started with minimum of 10 adult members. The registration procedure is simple, involving a very few legal formalities. Its formation is governed by provision of Corporate Societies Act 1912. Now, some limitations and demerits of corporate society. So, corporate form of organization suffers from the following limitation. Firstly, limited resources. So, resources of a corporate society consist of capital contributions of the member with limited means. The low rate of dividend offered on investment also acts as an deterrent in attracting membership or more capital from the members. So usually in a corporate society, you get a very low rate of dividend, means low rate of reward, you can say. It does not attract the members as much to invest more capital. So there is limited resources. Secondly, inefficiency in management. So, corporate societies are unable to attract and employ expert managers because of their inability to pay them high salaries. All right, so they are not able to employ expert managers and people with expertise because they cannot offer them high salaries and wages. The members who offer honorary services on a voluntary basis are generally not professionally equipped, because if they were professionally equipped, why would they want to voluntary work for them, right? So to handle management functions effectively. All right. Third, lack of secrecy is there. So as a result of open discussions in meeting of members, as well as disclosure obligations as per the Societies Act Clause 7, it is difficult to maintain secrecy about the operations of your corporate society. Fourth is government control. In return of the privileges offered by the government, corporate societies have to comply with several rules and regulations related to auditing of accounts, submission of accounts, etc. So there is a interference in functioning of corporate society through the control exercised by your state corporate department. It also negatively affects its freedom of operations. Fifth, you have difference in opinion. Internal quarrels arising as a result of contrary viewpoints. When different people have different opinions. So, because of internal quarrels, means internal fights, it results in contrary viewpoints. And it leads to difficulties in your decision making. One person is saying something, other person is disagreeing with that, saying something, third person is not disagreeing with both, saying something. So it leads to difficulties in decision making. You can't make a prompt decision making. You can't lead to timely capitalization of market opportunities. As we saw in sole proprietor's case, one of its merit was quick decision making. That is not as much efficient in the case of corporate society. So personal interest also start to dominate the welfare motive and the benefit of the other members, and may take a backseat if personal gain is given preference by certain members. Okay, so sometimes even your personal interest, they start to dominate the welfare motive and benefit of other members, and this also takes a backseat if personal gain is given preference by certain members. All right, now we'll see types of corporate societies. So we have total of six types of corporate society. You have consumers corporate society, you have corporate society, marketing corporate society, farmers corporate society, credit corporate society, and corporate housing society. All right, so firstly we have consumers corporate society. So consumers corporate society are formed to protect the interest of the consumers. Okay, why is it formed? To protect the interest of consumers. Members comprise of consumer which are desirous of obtaining good quality products, means they want to obtain good quality products at a very reasonable price. Society aims to eliminate the middlemen to achieve economy in operation. It purchases goods in bulk directly from wholesalers. What is the benefit of purchasing good directly from wholesalers? You get it at a very reasonable price, and especially when you're buying bulk, you get discounts. So and sell goods to members. Thereby they eliminate the middlemen who usually, in case they usually exploit them, right? So profits, if any, are distributed on basis of either basis of your capital contribution done by each member to the society or purchases made by your individual members. This is your consumers corporate society. Secondly, you have your producers corporate society. These societies are set to protect the interest of small producers, not large scale producers, small ones. The members comprise of producers desirous of procuring inputs for production of goods to meet the demands of consumers. Society aims to fight against big capitalists and enhance the bargaining power of the small producers. It supplies raw material, equipment, other input to the members so that they can work efficiently, and also buys their output for sale. Profits among the members are generally distributed on the basis of contributions to the total pool of goods produced or sold by a society. Third, you have marketing corporate society. Such societies are established to help small producers in selling their products. Members consist of producers who wish to obtain reasonable price for their output. The society aims to eliminate middlemen again and to improve the competitive position of members by securing a favorable market for the products. It pools output of individual members, performs marketing function like your transportation, warehousing, packaging, and sell the output at best possible price. Profit are distributed according to each member's contribution to the pool of output. Fourth one, you have farmers corporate society. This is important. Farmers Corporate Society is established to protect the interest of farmers by providing better inputs at a reasonable cost. Members comprise farmers who wish to jointly take up farming activities. Aim is to gain and benefit of large scale farming and increase productivity. Such societies provide better quality seeds, fertilizers, machinery, and other modern techniques for use in the cultivation of crops. This helps not only in improving the yield and returns, but also problems associated with the farming on fragmented land holdings. All right. Fifth, you have credit corporate society. So, credit corporate society are established for providing easy credit on reasonable terms to members. Members comprise of persons who seek financial help in form of loans. The aim of such society is to protect members from exploitation of lenders who charge a very high interest on loans. Such societies provide loans to members out on the of the amounts collected as capital and deposit. So such societies, they provide loans to members out of the amounts which is collected as capital and deposits from the members, and they charge a minimal rate of interest. So they basically help the people from getting exploited by lenders who charge a really high rate of interest. How did they do this? From the amounts collected as capital and deposits from the members. How much amount is collected from your capital and how much deposits each member is making. Sixth one is important, corporate housing society. Corporate housing societies are established to help people with limited income to construct houses at reasonable cost. Members of these societies consist of people who are desirous of procuring residential accommodation at a lower cost. Aim is to solve housing problem of members by constructing houses and giving option of paying in installments. Installments means, suppose my total is 5,000, so they give you an installment plan that you have 5 months, each month you can pay 1,000. So like this, they'll give you installment plans, and this is an option so that they can efficiently pay and they don't get burdened. These societies construct flats and they provide plots to members on which the members themselves can construct the house as per their will or their choice. All right, so with this we are done with our corporate society. Moving on to joint stock company. So a company is an association or person or a group of person that is formed for carrying out business activity. It has a legal, legal status independent from members. Means, suppose let me tell you one example. Usually, we say in sole proprietorship also that there is no separate legal entity. Your business and businessman are considered the same. But in case of your joint stock company, your business and businessman are considered as distinct entities. While mentioning any brand, you will always mention the brand. You will never mention the owner. If you have a problem with the brand, you will not mention that you will not mention it as Mukesh Ambani. You will mention as his brand, Geo. You will not say that I have problem with Mukesh Ambani's brand. Okay, you will say I have a problem with Geo. Okay, so the same way, the legal status is independent and it has a separate entity. A company is described as a artificial person having a separate legal entity. Perpetual succession. Perpetual succession is basically, in company law you will see it refers to the ability of a corporation to continue its existence indefinitely even with change in ownership, leadership or membership. So you will see this in its feature and merit even after the and even after your if members, if they leave also, still the company goes on. Okay, perpetual succession, and a common seal is there. That common seal is basically a stamp, or you can say, which shows that this stamp is from this company. Okay, so the company form of organization is governed by the Companies Act 2013 as per section 2 clause 20 of Act 2013. Company means company incorporated under the this act or any previous company law. previous company law we are going to see in some. Okay, I'll show you anyways. So these are some previous laws. Previous company law, you have your act, Indian Companies Act 1866, you have 1882, 1930, 1942, and 1956. This one's the recent one and this one's followed. Okay, so okay, so basically the shareholders are the owners of company. So even if I invest 1% in the share of that company, I am called as the owner of that company. While the board of directors are the chief managing body elected by the shareholders. So it can't be that there is a form of business organization wherein you are known as the owner and you means you're the shareholder and you are the owner of. It can't be that everyone putting in shares are the owners. There should be at least some body that should be the head of that company or any form of business organization for efficient functioning. That is the board of directors, and these board of directors are usually they're elected by the shareholders. The shareholders only elect the BOD, board of directors. These are the chief managing body, means higher than the shareholders. Okay, usually the owners exercise an indirect control over the business. They have an indirect control over the business. Capital of company is divided into smaller parts, which is called as shares. The capital of company is only called as shares. They're basically in the smaller denominations and can be transferred freely from one shareholder to another person except in your private company. Okay, so now moving ahead with the features of our joint stock company. Our first feature is it is an artificial person. So a company is a creation of law. Now, in case of joint stock company, we always say that it has a separate legal existence. Means the business and the businessman are two different things. So the business basically is an artificial person because it is a creation of law and it exists independent from its members. All right. So, like natural persons, a company can own property, can incur debts and borrow money, enter into contacts, sue and be sued. But unlike them, a company cannot breathe, it cannot eat, run, talk, and so on. So, that is why a company is called as an artificial person. Second, it has separate legal entity. So from the day of incorporation, means from the day it gets the certificate of incorporation from a registrar of companies, that is when it can be legally said to be the certificate of incorporation basically shows you that the birth date of your company. So from the day of incorporation of a company, it acquires an identity which is distinct from its members. All right, the assets and liabilities are separate from owners. So the assets and the liabilities of the company are those which are separate from the owners. The law does not recognize the business and the owners to be one and the same. So in this, the law does not recognize your business and businessman to be same. Your business and businessman are two distinct individuals having their separate identity. Third feature is formation. So formation of a company is very time consuming because there are a lot of people involved in your company, in making of your company, so it is very time consuming. Lot of effort is involved in it, and it is expensive and it is complicated as well. It involves preparation of a lot of several documents which are required to be submitted with the registrar of companies as per the acts. So, incorporation of companies is compulsory under the Companies Act 2013 or any other previous company laws. So, what does previous company law means? Any of these laws that you will be seeing here are known as your previous company laws. So, you have your Companies Act 1866, then 1882, 1930, 1942, and 1956. So usually, mostly as per now, your companies are registered under your incorporated under your Companies Act 1956, all right, or any of these act. Then a fourth feature is perpetual succession. As I already explained, perpetual succession means that in the company law refers to the ability of your corporation to continue its existence indefinitely, even See, members come, members go, but your company continues to exist. So there is no lack of business continuity. A company is a creation of law and can only be brought to an end by the law. And it will only cease to exist when a specific procedure for its closure, which is called your winding up means closing up, is completed. So members come, members go, but company will always continue to exist. Fifth is your control. So the management and the control of the affairs of the company is undertaken by the board of directors. As I said, your company has your owners, which are the shareholders, but you need a supervisor for those. So those are your board of directors. They are a bit senior than your shareholders. So the board of directors appoints the top management officials for running the business. The directors hold a position for immense significance. So these board of directors, they are not just a supervisor. They hold to a greater significance a position in a company, because they are directly accountable to the shareholders for the working of company. So if anything goes wrong, they are the ones who are accountable to the shareholders. Shareholders do not have day to day right to be involved in the running of the business, so they are not involved in the day to day activities of the business. All right. The sixth point is liability. So liability of members is limited to extent of capital contributed by them in the company. So in case of joint stock company, the liability of each person is limited only to the extent of the capital that are contributed by each of them. Creditors can use only assets of company. Now the creditors can only use assets of the company. They cannot use the personal assets or personal possessions of each of the shareholders. Only the company's assets can be used to settle the claims, since company and the members are separate. So the members and members' personal positions cannot be used to clear out the debts of the company. Members can only be asked to contribute to the loss to the extent of unpaid amount of sharehold by them. Suppose if we say Akshay is the shareholder in a company which has, and he is holding 2000 share of rupees 10 each, and he has already paid from that rupees 7 per share. So his liability in the event of loss of company in future, because of unforeseen circumstances, if the company faces loss, his debts means what amount he has to pay is only rupees 3 per share on 2000 shares. He cannot be asked to pay more than that. Beyond this, he is not liable to pay anything towards the debts or losses of the company. So company has limited liability. Seventh, we have common seal. So basically, company being an artificial person cannot sign its name by itself. Usually, if it was a person like a sole proprietorship or something, if they had to sign any documents or official needs for any cause, they could do it, right? Because they're a natural person, they can sign the documents. But as we see, company is an artificial person, so it cannot sign the whatever requirements are needed to be signed. It cannot do it by itself. Therefore every company is required to have its own seal that acts as an official signature for the company. Any document which does not carry the seal of the company is not binding on the company. So any document which does not have seal of company, you cannot say it is of that company. Only when you see that seal of a company on your document, you tell them that this is yours and you are responsible for this, or you are liable for this. All right. Eighth point is risk bearing. This is our last feature. Risk of losses in a company is borne by all the shareholders. It's not only one or two people. All the people who have bought shares of that company are responsible if the company incurs loss. This is unlike the case of sole proprietorship or partnership firm, where only one or a few persons respectively have to bear the losses in the face of financial difficulties. So all shareholders in case of financial difficulties have to contribute to the debts to the extent of their shares in the company's capital. The risk of loss thus gets spread. So the risk of loss that is there, it gets spread over a large number of shareholders. So not a single or not two three of them have to be burdened with the pressure if the company incurs loss. All right, now let's see the merits of the company. The company form of organization offers a multitude of advantages, some of which are discussed below. First, we have limited liability. So the shareholders are liable to the extent of the amount which is unpaid on the shares what are held by them. Also, only the assets of the company is used to settle the debts, leaving the owner's personal property or possessions free from any charges. This reduces the degree of risk that is borne by investor. Second, transfer of interest. So the ease of transfer of ownership adds to the advantage. What does transfer of ownership mean? See, in case of partnership or in case of JHUF or in case of sole proprietorship may, if a person, if that owner dies, anything physical ailment happens to that, the business ends. But in case of your partnership and JHUF, if the person dies, you can start up. In case of JHUF, if the karta dies, next eldest member takes place. In case of partnership, if your if they die or if there is some cause of death, you can continue, but you have to start a new agreement. But in case of company, there is a ease of transfer of interest, means that if any, or if the any owner dies, if any shareholder dies or anything happens in this case, the transfer of ownership can be done easily. There is no requirements of holding new agreements or doing, or there is no like your business will get closed or something like that. So there is ease of transfer of ownership, and it adds to advantage of investing in a company, as the share of a public limited company can be sold in market, and such can be easily converted into cash in case the need arises. So this avoids the blockage of investment and presents the company as a favorable avenue for investment purposes. So anybody who is seeking to invest for investment purposes, they would like to go forward with companies. Okay, so then third, you have perpetual existence. So the existence of a company will not be affected by death, retirement, resignation, insolvency, or insanity of members, as it has a separate entity from members. So, company will continue to exist even if all the members die. Even then, it will continue to exist. It can be liquidated only as per provisions of the Companies Act 2013. So it can only be closed or only be winded up by law. Fourth, you have scope of expansion. So, as compared to sole proprietorship and partnership form of organization, company has large financial resources because a lot of shareholders are present. So, it has a lot of financial resources. So, capital can also be attracted from public as well as through loans from banks and financial institution. Thus, there is a very huge, greater scope of expansion. Investors are also naturally inclined to invest in shares because there is limited liability. So, transfer transferable ownership and possibility of higher returns in a company is possible. All right. Fifth, you have professional management. So company form of business organization can afford to pay higher salaries, as we saw in sole proprietorship, and also in your JHUF, you saw that there was limited managerial ability because of low returns. They could not they could not keep the professionals with them. Even if they had professionals, they could not keep them for a longer period of time, because they didn't have that much resources. So, but in company's case, they can afford to pay higher salaries and to specialists and professionals. So it can employ people who are experts in their area of specialization. So this helps in reducing the risk of errors in the working of the company. So each department deals with a particular activity and is headed by an expert. This leads to your balanced decision making, as well as greater efficiency in the company's operations. Next, we are going to see the limitations of your joint stock company. So, in limitations, we are having complexity in formation. As we know, it takes a lot of time, effort, and it is very expensive. Reformation of a company requires greater time, effort, extensive knowledge of legal requirements and procedures. You cannot say one day that I want to form a company and the next day it is formed. No, it requires a lot of legal formalities that have to be taken care of. As compared to sole proprietorship, partnership form of organization, formation of a company is more complex. Secondly, you have lack of secrecy Now we saw in the case of sole proprietorship that there was you had public means you had confidentiality of information as its merit, because they are not bind by law to publish their firm's account. But for companies act to 2013, it requires each public company to provide time to time information. Why? Because public company is pooling in money from the public, so the public has to know all the what you say all the information that is going on in the company, and it is to protect the investors also. So companies have to from time to time they have to provide information to public and to the office of registrar of companies also. It's a mandatory they have to do this. Such information is available to the general public also, and it is difficult to maintain complete secrecy about operations of company. Third, you have impersonal work environment. So separation of ownership and management leads to situations in which there is lack of effort. What happens is that in a company there's so many members that what happens is that the owners of the company might not even know some of the members of the company. So it makes difficult for owners and top management to maintain the personal contact with the employees, customers, creditors. So this leads to what happens is basically separation of ownership, and your management, your board of directors might not know the employees of the company. So it leads to situation in which there is lack of effort as well as personal involvement on the part of officers of a company. Large size of company further makes it difficult for the owners and the top management to maintain personal contact with each and every employee, customer, and the creditors. Fourth demerit is numerous regulations. Functioning of a company is subject to many legal provisions. You need a lot of legal provisions and compulsions. Company is burdened with numerous restrictions in respect of aspects including auditing, voting, filing report, preparation of document, and is required to obtain various certificates from different agencies. Like if you need SEBI's approval, registrar of companies approval for your name. So this reduces the freedom of operation of a company and takes a lot of time, effort, and it's very expensive. Fifth demerit is delay in decision making. So companies are democratically managed. Why? Your shareholders, which are known as owners of the company, basically elect your board of directors. So through the board of directors, they are managed, which is followed by your top management, middle management, low level management. Communication as well as approval of various proposals, it can cause delays not only in decision making but also in acting upon them. Decision can be taken, but acting upon those decisions is also another task. Sixth is important, oligarchic management basically means few people management. Okay, few people management of economy. So in theory, this is a gist of all the points we have studied. In theory, a company is a democratic institution wherein the board of directors are representative of the shareholders. Their shareholders are the ones who basically elect your BOD, who are the owners. In practice, however, in most large sized organizations having a multitude of shareholders, owners have minimal influence in terms of controlling or running the business. It is so because shareholders are spread all over the country and a very, so sometimes what happens is even though you're a shareholder and called as the owner of the company, you have a very small influence in terms of controlling or running the business, because the shareholders of company are spread all over the country, and very small percentage they regularly attend the general meeting. So very few of them have influence in the running of the business. Board of directors, as such, they enjoy considerable freedom in exercising power, which they sometimes use even contrary to the interest of shareholders. So, of course, whoever is in power at some point of time, they use their power against your shareholders sometimes. Dissatisfied shareholders in such a situation, they do not have any option but to sell their shares and exit the company. So shareholders as such, they don't have that much say in the company. Even though you are called as the owner of the company, you do not have that much involvement in day-to-day activities. So the board of directors basically sometimes they enjoy their freedom, and they put some rules and powers which they contrary to the interest of shareholders. So in such situation, your shareholders cannot voice upon them. They are required, or they are, you can say, they are left with no option but to sell the shares and to exit the company. So as the directors virtually enjoy rights to take all major decisions, it leads to a rule by few. So usually we say that a company is complexity is there because so many people are involved in companies working. But here we are saying that it is a rule by few, because your board of directors sometimes they show dominance, like we saw in the case of Karta. Same way over here, there is sometimes dominance. So so directors, they enjoy the rights and take all major decisions are basically taken by the board of directors. Seventh, you have your conflict and interest. So there may be a conflict of interest among various stakeholders of a company. Employees, for example, may be interested in higher salaries. Consumers desire your higher quality products at a lower price. Shareholders want higher returns in form of dividends as a reward for their work. And increase in the intrinsic value of shares, means a unique value of shares. So, these demands pose problems in managing the company, as it often becomes difficult to satisfy such diverse interests. So, each of the people, all of the people who are working for the company, there are so many demands by each of them that it becomes a problem for the company to fulfill each of these demands. Like your employees, they would want higher salaries. Consumers like me and you would want higher quality products at a lower price, and the shareholders who are there, they would want higher dividends, right? So there are so many demands, and it tends to pose problems in managing the company, as it becomes difficult to satisfy diverse interest. Next topic we have is type of companies. So we have two types of companies majorly. We have private company and public company. So private company means a company in which it restricts the right of members to transfer its shares. Means basically in private company, the transfer of shares, there is restriction. Second, a private company has minimum 2 members and maximum of 200 members, including the present and past employees. So they can be so it has a limitation on maximum number of members. Third point, it does not invite public to subscribe to its securities, debentures. So a private company does not need a prospectus, because what is prospectus? Prospectus is an invitation to public to invest shares in the capital of a company. So in this case, you do not have public as such. So there is no need to issue to prospectus. It is necessary for private company to use the word private limited after its name, PVT Ltd. Okay, if a private company contravenes any of the aforesaid provisions, it ceases to be to be a private company and loses all the exemptions and privileges to which it is entitled. Means whatever three types of how can we classify a company as a private company? Firstly, there is restriction on transfer of shares. Second, you have minimum 2 people and maximum 200. And third, you do not invite public to subscribe. This is how we know it is a private company. Now, if your private company is breaking these rules, right? So then it ceases to be private company, means it can no longer be called a private company, and it loses all the exemptions and all the privileges to which it is entitled. All right, the following are some privileges of private company against your public company. First, private company can be formed by only 2 members, whereas for your public company, you need minimum of 7 members. Second, there is no need to issue prospectus, as public is not invited to subscribe to the shares of a private company. Okay, third, you have allotment of shares can be done without receiving minimum subscription. A private limited company can start business as soon as it receives certificate of incorporation. By certificate of incorporation is basically birth certificate of a company, and it is received from a registrar of companies when all the formalities are completed. So then, fourth point, private company needs to have only two directors. So, for a private company, you need to have two directors, and for public, you need at least three directors. However, the maximum number of directors for both types of company is 15. So, maximum directors both can have is 15. All right. Then you have private company is not required to keep index of numbers, while the same is necessary in case of your public company. Okay, while the same is required in your public company. All right, now let's see what is public company. Public company means a company which is not a private company. As per Companies Act, a public company is one which has minimum 7 members, maximum there is no limit, unlimited. Second, it has no restriction on transfer of securities, debentures, etc. Shares, basically, you can say. Third, it is not prohibited from inviting public to subscribe to securities, means they issue prospectus also. Okay, however, a private company which is a subsidiary of public company is also treated as a public company. Okay, now let's see this table, which gives us the difference between public company and private company in depth. So first you have members. So for public company, your minimum you have to have 7, maximum it is unlimited. For private company, your minimum members should be 2, maximum is 200. Minimum number of directors in case of public company is 3, in case of private company 2. Maximum number of directors for public and private is 15. Index of members for public company, you need to have an index of members. For private company, it is not compulsory. Transfer of shares for public company, there is no restriction, they can transfer shares. Private company on the other hand, there is restriction on transfer of shares. Last point, invitation to public to subscribe to shares. For public company, it can invite public to subscribe to shares or debentures, but in case of private company, it cannot invite the public to subscribe to its securities. It cannot invite public to subscribe to its securities. Okay, one more point you can add as name. So for public company, it ends ltd after the name, it should be ltd, and then the name. For private company, it is pvt ltd after the name, right? It is necessary to use the name private limited after the name. All right, after this we have choice of form of business organization. Before that, let us see this table over here. So factors, and then we'll see what is the most advantaged of the factor and which is the least advantageous of the factor. All right, so for availability of capital, which would be most advantageous is company, because there's so many owners. Least advantage would be sole proprietorship because there's a single owner. All right, cost of formation is most advantageous sole proprietorship. Sole proprietorship is the least expensive one. Okay, and company is very expensive, so cost of formation will be least advantages for the company. Ease of formation, sole proprietorship, of course. Company on the other hand is time consuming. Transfer of ownership is most advantages in case of company, except your private company, and least advantages for your partnership. All right, because for your partnership, after your death of karta, you can continue business, but you have to form a new agreement. Managerial skills, again, most advantageous is for the company because they can hire professionals who are expertise in the areas of management, so it is beneficial for them. Least advantageous would be for sole proprietorship because he or she, the owner of the company, cannot keep the professionals for a long time. Means um, he or she cannot retain the professionals, right? Because they're not able to retain the talented ambitious employees because they have limited finance with them. Okay, and even banks and financial institutions, they do not easily give them funds and loans. they're hesitant to give them funds and loans because they know that it's a sole owner. They are scared that will it be able to repay them or not. So that is why it is least advantageous for your sole proprietorship. Regulations, most advantageous is for sole proprietorship because control is in the hand of a single individual. Company on the other hand is least advantageous. Flexibility again for sole proprietorship company is least. Continuity in case of company is most advantageous because you have perpetual succession. People, members may come, members may go, but company will continue to exist. Then, for sole proprietorship, there is lack of business continuity after the death, insanity, or any physical ailment of the proprietor. It comes to a closure. It has a detrimental effect on the business, and it comes to a closure. Liability is most advantageous to your company. You can even write your corporate society because for both cases you have limited liability, and least advantages you can write sole proprietorship. All right. Next, we have our topic of choice of form of business organization. Before that, we'll do this. All right. So basically, for your choice of form of business organization, you will be having all the forms of business organizations we have done till now, all the five types of business organization and how you are comparing these. So first, based on formation for sole proprietorship, minimal legal formalities is required and it is easiest formation, right? You don't know law is governing your sole proprietorship. Case of partnership, registration is optional. You should register because if you register, you it acts as a evidence. If further, if there are requirements, if you have to stand before the court or something, so it is optional, but it's said that you should it's advisable that you should go ahead with registration, and then easy formation is there. Then for JHUF, you have less legal formalities. Exemption from registration is there because your membership pay, what is the base of membership is by birth, and ease of formation is there. For corporate society, your registration is compulsory. For in corporate society, you have to get your registration done. All right. Then you have company. So for company, registration is again compulsory. It is lengthy, it is expensive, a lot of efforts is involved. Okay. So for your corporate society, coming back on the point, so for corporate society your registration is compulsory again, the corporate against the corporate societies act 1912. Second base of comparison is members. Sole proprietorship is the only owner. Partnership may you have to have minimum 2, maximum 50. Joint Hindu family business, to start up a JHUF, you should have at least 2 persons. Alright, and you have to have ancestral property also. Then corporate society, ancestral property will come in your next point, capital contribution. All right. For corporate society, you need to have at least 10 adult members, adults. Okay, and no maximum limit is not there. Minimum you have to have 10. Company may, for private company you have to have 2 members, minimum, maximum 200. In case of a public company, minimum you have to have 7 members, maximum there is no limit, unlimited. All right. Then capital contribution, in case of sole proprietorship, there is limited finance. You don't have a lot of finance because banks and lending institutions, they hesitate to extend you long term loans. For partnership, it is limited. Your capital contribution is limited, but more than that can be raised in case of sole proprietorship. Okay, means more capital can be raised in, if we compare your partnership with sole proprietorship, in case of partnership more capital can be raised. Okay, JHUF, you have your ancestral property which must be inherited. Okay, corporate society, limited capital contribution is there. Company, large financial resources have to be there. Liability for your sole proprietor partnership, JHUF is unlimited. For your corporate society and company, it is limited. Control and management, sole proprietorship, owners take all the decisions and there is quick decision making also. Then for your partnership, partners take decisions, consent of all partners is needed. You have to have all consent of partners. For your JHUF, Karta takes all decisions. For your corporate society, elected representatives are there, which is the managing committee who takes all the decisions. For your joint stock company, separation is there between ownership and your management. Continuity in case of sole proprietorship is unstable. Business and owner are regarded as one. So if the businessman who is the owner dies or anything happens to him or her, the business is also affected and it leads to closure. Second of all, we have partnership. So it is more stable but affected by status of partner. JHUF stable business continues even if Karta dies. Okay, the next eldest member takes the place of Karta. Corporate society is stable because of separate legal existence, and company also same thing. There is separate stable because there is a separate legal status. Now going back to the choice of form of business organization. So, for choice of form of business organization, our first point that we see is the cost and ease in setting up organization. So, as far as initial business setting up is cost is concerned, sole proprietor is the most inexpensive way of starting a business, right? You do not need to invest in people. You do not have to have a huge capital. So it is very in not very, but it is inexpensive as compared to other business organizations. However, legal requirements are minimum and the scale of operation is also small. So however it is inexpensive, legal requirements are also minimum and the scale of operation is small. In case of partnership, the advantage of less legal formalities and lower cost is there. Even in partnership, you have less legal formalities and lower cost is also there because of limited scale of operation. Corporate societies, companies have to be compulsorily registered. Formation of company involves a lengthy and expensive legal for procedure. From the point of view of initial cost, sole proprietor is the preferred form as it is least expenditure is in it is having least expenditure. Company form of organization on other hand is more complex and it has a lot of greater cost as compared to the other forms of business organization. Second, you have liability. In case of sole proprietor partnership, JHUF, liability of owners and the partners is unlimited. This calls that even if the business assets are insufficient to pay the debts, personal possessions or personal property of the owner can be used to repay the debts. In joint Hindu family business, Karta has unlimited liability, rest co-partners have limited liability. In corporate societies and companies, liability is limited only to the extent of capital contribution by each of the members. Hence, from the point of view of investors, company form of organization is most suitable as the risk involved is limited. Okay, third we have continuity. So, continuity of sole proprietorship and partnership firm is affected by events of death, insolvency, insanity of owners. However, such factors will not affect continuity of a business in case of organizations like JHUF, corporate societies, companies. In case a business needs a permanent structure, company form is more suitable, right? Because it has perpetual succession. For short term ventures, proprietorship or partnership is also preferred. Then you have your fourth point, management ability. So, sole proprietor may find it difficult to have expertise in all functional areas of management. In other forms of organizations like partnership and companies, there is no such problems because they have enough funds to afford to keep professionals who can ace in their field, right? So there is no problem in such cases. So division of work amongst the members in such organization allows the managers to specialize in specific areas, and this leads to better decision making, less errors are there. But this may lead to situation of conflict also because of differences of opinion amongst the people. Further, if the organization's operations are very complex in nature, it requires professionalized management. Company form of organization is a better alternative. Proprietor and partnership may be suitable where simplicity of operation is there and allow even people with limited skills to run the business. So when there is complexity in the business, you need a professionalized management. But when the operations are simple, then your Partnership and proprietorship are considered. Thus, the nature of business and operations are needed for professionalized management, and this affects the choice of form of organization. You have to see while thinking of a business idea that is my idea complex? Will it require a complex business structure? I'll go forward with company. If it is simple, I can go on with partnership and proprietorship. Fifth is capital consideration. So companies are at in better position to collect large amount of capital, because in case of public company they can pool in capital from your public. In case of private company also you get capital because they are investors. So they collect large amount of capital by issuing shares to large number of investors. Partnership firms have an advantage of combined resources of all partners, but resources of sole proprietorship are limited. So in partnership firms you have advantage because you have combined resource of all the partners, but sole proprietor there is limitation because you are the sole owner. How many people can you hire? Thus, if the scale of operation is large, a company form is suitable, whereas medium or small size business can opt for partnership or sole proprietorship. Further, from the point of view of expansion, a company is way more suitable because of its capability to raise funds, invest in expansion plans, and in it is precisely for this purpose that in our opening case, what we saw, Neha's father suggested she should consider. Okay, so in the starting of the chapter, they had given a case. Okay, basically, what you have to note is that when you are in the point when you want your company to or when you want your business to expand, point of view of expansion, your company is more suited. But sole proprietorship, the because any if in sole proprietorship, if any unwise decision is taken by the proprietor, it can directly affect his business, so they do not tend to expand or innovate their business operations. All right. Sixth, you have degree of control. So if direct control over operations and absolute decision making power is required, proprietorship is preferred because single owner is there, so control is in his or her hand. But if owners do not mind sharing control, if the owners are okay with sharing their control, decision making, and partnership or company form of organization is adopted. So if the owners are okay with sharing their control and decision making power, your partnership or company form of organization can be adopted. Added advantage in case of company form of organization is that there is ownership. Separation of ownership is there. Partnership may again you will have unlimited liability. Company, at least you're having limited liability. So advantage in case of company is that there is separate ownership and management, and it is professionals who are appointed to independently manage the affairs of a company. So there's less risk involved. Then your last point is nature of business. So, if direct personal contact is needed with the customers, such as in case of grocery store, proprietorship is more suitable. Okay, because as we saw in case of company, there is impersonal work relation is there. Means there is the owners of the company or the board of directors cannot maintain such a close contact with the each and every employee, customer, creditor of the company. So if you need personal contact, you should adopt proprietorship. And for large manufacturing units, however, when direct personal contact is not required, company form of organization is more suitable. Similarly, in case where services of professional nature are required, partnership is suitable. So it would not be out of place to mention here that the factors which are stated above are interrelated, right? Factors like capital contribution, risk vary and with the size and nature of business, and hence a form of business organization that is suitable from the point of view of the risk from for a given business when run on a small scale might not be appropriate when the same business is carried on large scale. So when you're carrying out that business on small scale, you cannot consider that risk when you're taking a large scale business operation. So it is therefore suggested that all relevant factors have to be taken into consideration when you're making a decision with respect to any form of business organization that you're having. Okay, you have to take wise decisions that that are beneficial for your business. Now in case of sole proprietorship, even if he or she takes unwise decisions, he or she knows that he or she is responsible. In case of partnership, or in the case of JHUF, when Karta is taking the decisions, he has to take such decisions that do not have a negative impact on his co-partners. So you have to take wise and wise decisions that do not impact the well-being of the company or any form of business organization. With this, we are done with our chapter 2. Moving on with chapter 7, that is your formation of a company. So, okay. So while when as we saw in the last chapter, joint stock company, it is a continuation to that. How your company is getting formed, what are the requirements of a being, how what are the requirements required for formation of a company, how does it get incorporated, what is subscription capital, what are promoters. This is all what we're going to study. So, when we start with this, we need to know that there are three distinct stages in the formation of company. Your first stage is promotion, second is incorporation, and subscription of capital. This is what we are going to study in this chapter in depth. Okay, so the first stage is your promotion of a company. So, promotion, what is promotion? Basically what happens is you're a businessman or any individual will think of an idea. I want to start a company of anything, what he or she wishes to do. So first he decides of an business idea and takes an initiative to form a company so that practical shape can be given to the business idea and exploit the available business opportunities. So when you begin with us, it begins with somebody that has discovered a potential business idea. So any person or group of persons or even a company which has discovered an opportunity, if such a person or group of persons or a company proceeds to form a company, all right, so then they are said to be promoters of company. So what is a promoter? Promoter is said to be the one who undertakes to form a company. Means he or she takes the responsibility to form a company with the given project and set it going, and who takes the necessary steps to accomplish the purpose. All right. So apart from conceiving idea, see, first you are conceiving idea, you're making a business idea. Apart from that, you have to analyze its prospects. You have to analyze, will it be feasible for you, will it be profitable for you, and they have to bring together the four M of marketing management, that is your men, material, machinery, and managerial ability. Men, material, machinery, and managerial ability, and your financial resources to set the organization going. Then this is important. As per section 69, a promoter means a person first who has been named in the prospectus or in the annual return of the company. Second, who has control over the affairs of a company. It shouldn't be that a promoter, you are a promoter but you do not work for the company or you do not have control over company. No, you should have controls over the affairs of company, either it is directly or indirectly, directly as a shareholder or as a director. Then the third point is, in accordance with whose advice, directions, or instructions the board of directors of company is accustomed to act. So the whatever advice, directions, and instructions the promoter gives, according to that the board of directors have to act according to the advice of the promoter. Okay, so after thoroughly examining the feasibility of idea, promoters assemble the resources. So first they analyze the idea, they examine the idea. Will it be feasible? Will it be profitable? They have to analyze the idea. After they have analyzed, they have to assemble the resources to work for the efficient functioning, and then they have to prepare necessary documents, they have to give a name to the company, they have to perform various other activities to get the company registered and to obtain the certificate of incorporation, enabling company to commence the business. So promoter performs various functions. Now we are going to see the various functions of the promoter. So the important functions of promoter may be listed as below. Again, I'm saying that I've done this chapter as a one shot, so I'll be covering it fast in this lecture. If you want to see a better understanding, you can see the one shot. Alright, so moving ahead with the functions of the promoter. First function is identification of business opportunity. So first you have to identify the business opportunity. First and foremost activity of promoter is to identify that business opportunity. Opportunity may be in respect of producing a new product or making changes to an existing product. So such opportunity has to be analyzed to see if it is technically and economically feasible. All right, so second function is feasibility study. So at times it is not possible or feasible or profitable to convert all the business opportunities into real projects. Sometimes you may think of some business ideas that you might think is very it's very good, it is very great, but it might not be feasible, right? It would not be profitable. So promoters have to take a detailed feasibility study to investigate all the aspects of the business that they intend to start. Depending upon the nature of business or the nature of project, following feasibility studies have to be undertaken with the help of specialists. Now, promoters are not professionals, they have to take the help of professionals. Now, when promoters take the help of professionals, the it may be noted that experts do not become promoters. The professionals or the experts are not known as promoters because they're assisting the promoters. All right, they are known as professionals. You cannot call a professional like a lawyer, CA, or engineers as promoters just because they're helping promoters. All right, so to know the feasibility status, they take help of professionals like CAs, engineers, lawyers to examine whether the perceived business opportunity is profitable, can be profitably exploited or not. So your first feasibility study is your technical feasibility. So sometimes idea is good but it is not technically possible to execute. Sometimes your idea may be very good but technically it's not possible. You do not have the technology. Can you execute it? No, you cannot. So sometimes it can happen because the required raw material or technology is not easily available. For example, we have a person say, we have a person called Mr. X. Mr. X has to needs a particular metal to produce a instrument, suppose. Okay, so that metal is not produced in his or her country. Okay, because of, you can say, poor political relations with the country who produces that metal, or so it cannot be imported, and it cannot be imported from the country which produces it also. So the project is technically unfeasible until arrangements are made. So Mr. X cannot execute that project because the technical resources that he or she needs is not available. So the project will have is technically unfeasible until and unless you get arrangements which are required to make the metal available from your alternate sources. So this is your technical feasibility. Second is your financial feasibility. Of course, this is very important. Every business requires funds, right? To operate in a large scale business or even a small scale business, you need funds. Promoters have to estimate the funds required for an identified business opportunity. If the required outlay for a project is so large and cannot be easily arranged within the available means, the project has to be given up. You cannot go along the project even if you do not have that funds. You cannot go along with it. Sometimes what happens is that you may think that developing township is very lucrative means it is very profitable, but it may turn out that the required funds are in several crore of rupees and it cannot be arranged by floating a company, means registering a company, listing the company by the promoter. So the idea has to be abandoned because of the lack of financial feasibility of the project. Third step, feasibility study, is your economic feasibility. So sometimes it happens that the project is both technical and financially feasible, but it is not profitable. But the chance of being profitable is very little. In such cases as well, you have to abandon the idea. Promoters usually take helps of experts to conduct studies, and it may be noted that these experts do not become promoters just because they're assisting promoters in the studies. Only when these investigations through positive results, the promoters decide to actually launch a company. So when these feasibility studies, these three types of feasibility studies, these three show positive results, only then the promoters will decide to launch a company, or else they have to abandon the idea completely. So after these show positive results, the next step is name approval. Having decided to incorporate a company, promoters have to select a name for the company and submit an application to the registrar of companies of the state in which the registered office of the company is situated. Suppose your company is situated in Mumbai, or your company is situated in Gujarat. So according to that state, you have to submit your application to the registrar of companies of that particular state. A proposed name. Okay, so basically the promoters give three names in order of their uh, priority. First name is the one that the promoters highly prioritize. Second name, in case the first gets rejected, second is there, which is again in the order of priority. And third name, in case first two gets rejected, your third name is there. In case all three gets rejected, you have to suggest an alternate name. Okay, so what happens is, if proposed name is not does not a proposed name may be approved if it's not considered undesirable. So what happens is, if your name that the promoter has suggested is very same is similar to another company's name, or if it is misleading. Suppose you are telling my company is of liquor, my okay, you're saying no, I'm a clothing business, but in reality it's a liquor business, so this is misleading for the people. So if your company's name is similar or misleading, then the business, in such cases your proposed name is not accepted by the registrars of company. Then you have to alternate name has to be approved by the registrar of companies. Therefore their three names in order of their priority are given to the registrar of companies. All right. Fourth function of promoter is fixing up signatories to the before that, we'll just see the name clause. So name clause is again very important. So the name is considered undesirable in the following cases: if it is identical or too closely resembles the name of existing company; if it is misleading, it is so considered if the name of a company is in a particular business or in association of particular type of, when it is not true. It is a liquor company, but it is saying to be a clothing business, so that is not true, right? It's misleading. Third, it is violative of the provisions of Emblem and Names Act 1950. This schedule specifies inter alia the name, emblem, or official seal of the UNO and its bodies like WHO, UNESCO, Government of India, state government, President India, Governor of any state, the Indian national flag. The act also prohibits use of any name which may suggest patronage of Government of India. Patronage is something that is already it is legally under the privilege of the government, and it cannot be used by any company. There's some names that cannot be used by company because it is legally government's name. All right. So, or any state government or local authority. Next, you have your fourth point: fixing up signatories to the memorandum of association. Signatories basically means signing of the document. Okay. So promoters have to decide who are the members who are signing the MOA. MOA basically shows you the objectives of the company. It is a compulsory document that the company has to have. We'll read about this further. So the promoters have to decide the members who have to sign the MOA, right, of the proposed company. Usually people signing memorandum are also called as your first directors of company. This is very important. Who are the first directors of company? The people who sign your memorandum. Their written consent to act as directors to take up qualification shares in the company is necessary. What are qualification shares also we'll be reading later. All right. Fifth step is appointment of professionals. So certain professionals like your mercantile bankers, auditors, CA, lawyers, engineers, they are appointed by the promoters to help them in preparation of your necessary documents which are required to be submitted with your registrar of companies. Names and address of shareholders, number of shares allotted in the to each of them have to be submitted with the registrar in the statement called return of allotment. Okay, okay. Then your seventh point is prepare. Sorry, your sixth point is preparation of necessary documents. So after your professionals are appointed, your MOA is signed, everything is done. Last step, you have to prepare the necessary documents. So promoter takes up the steps to prepare your legal documents, which have to be submitted compulsorily under the law to the registrar of companies for getting the company registered. If you do not submit these documents, you cannot get registered. So these documents are your MOA, Memorandum of Association, AOA, Articles of Association, and your Consent of Directors. All right. So these are the six functions of your promoters. Next, we are going to study what are the documents that have to be submitted. So the first document is MOA. So what is MOA? MOA is your Memorandum of Association. It is one of the most important document of the company, and it defines the objectives of the company. No company can legally undertake activities that are not contained in the MOA. Means you cannot undertake activities or any kind of provisions which is not mentioned in the MOA. Okay. So, as per Section 2, Clause 56 of Companies Act 2013, memorandum means memorandum of association of a company as originally framed, or it can be altered from time to time in pursuance of any previous company law of this act. Memorandum contains different clauses which are given below. You have your name clause first. Name clause is basically, this clause contains the name of the company which with which company is known, which has already been approved by the registrar of company. So name clause is the name of the company which is by which the company is said to be known, which is already been registered by the company registrar of companies. Second is your registered office clause. This clause you have, it contains the name of the state where your office is situated. Exact address of registered office is not required at this stage. However, the same has to be notified with the registrar within 30 days of the incorporation of a company. Third, you have your objects clause. Objects clause basically, it gives you the purpose of your company. It defines the purpose of for which the company is formed, and this is also one of the most important clause. If you do not know your purpose of company, you will not form it, right? So you need to know the purpose. That's why you have your objects clause. Company is not legally entitled to undertake activity which is beyond the object stated in the clause. You cannot undertake activities which are not mentioned in your object clause. All right, that will be illegal. The main objects for which company is formed are listed in the subclause. All right, it must be observed that an act which is, okay, leave this. Okay, fourthly, fourth point, you have your liability clause. So this clause limits the liability of members to the amount unpaid on the shares owned by them. Like, for example, if your shareholders have purchased 1000 shares of 10 rupees each, and he or she has already paid 6 per share, so 10 minus 6, only 4 per share, rupees 4 per share is his or her liability. Thus, even in the worst case, the company is in loss or some debts are there, he or she can only be called upon to pay rupees 4000. Okay. Then fifth, you have your capital clause. So this clause specifies maximum number or maximum capital which company is authorized to raise through the issue of shares. Authorized share capital of proposed company along with its division into number of shares having fixed value is specified in clause. Suppose your company has already authorized share capital. Suppose you say authorized share capital of company is 25 lakh. Okay. And with dividend into with divided into 2.5 lakh shares of 10 rupees each. So a company has already said that the authorized share capital means the maximum share capital the company can have is only this much. So company cannot issue share capital in addition to the amount which is specified, because the company has already specified that the maximum authorized share capital is this much. So okay, next point, you have your article of association. So AOA gives you the rules regarding internal management of company. Okay, these rules are subsidiary to MOA. Means if something goes, if in your AOA, if in your AOA your anything goes beyond your AOA's rules and regulations, you recheck it with your AOA. If it is not abiding by, no, sorry, you recheck it with your MOA. If it is not abiding by your MOA also, then you give up on that. Okay, okay. So then you have your consent of proposed directors. So in this you have, apart from MOA and AOA, you have a written consent of each person which is named as director and is required, confirming that they agree to act in capacity and they undertake to buy and pay for qualification shares as mentioned in the articles of association. Fourth point, you have your agreement. Okay, so the third point is basically that you have to have a written consent of the each person which is the director, and they have to confirm that they agree to act upon the company, they agree to abide by the rules of the company, they agree to that they are in the full capacity to work with the company according to the company's laws, they undertake to buy and pay for the qualification shares. Okay, then the fourth step document required is your agreement. Agreement is basically nothing but your agreement. It is, if any, always a company does not have an agreement, if any, then the company proposes, if any agreement, if any, which the company proposes to enter with the individual to appoint as managing director or as a whole-time director, you have to submit another document with the registrar of companies. It is not mandatory for a company to have an agreement. If it has any, then it has to say, has to submit a separate document with the registrar of companies. Okay, your fifth step is statutory declaration. So statutory declaration is nothing but your declaration that states all legal requirements pertaining to registration have been compiled. After all, after your MOA, AOA, then your consent of proposed director agreement, everything of this sort is done, then you go to your statutory declaration. It states that all the legal requirements pertaining to registration have been completed and compiled with and has been submitted to the registrar with the above mentioned documents for getting company registered under the law. This statement has to be signed by an advocate, chartered accountant, cost accountant, okay, or company secretary in practice who has engaged in formation of company. All right, then you have your before that, let's see qualification shares. So to ensure that directors have some stake in the company, articles usually have provision requiring them to buy a certain number of shares. They have to pay for these shares before company obtains your certificate of commencement of business, and these are called what, qualification shares. Then you have your last step, last document that is required, receipt of payment of fee. Along with the above mentioned document, necessary fees has to be paid to for the registration of the company. Amount of such fees depends on the authorized share capital of the company. According to your share capital, that's the amount of fee that you have to pay. So with this, we are done with promotion, the topic promotion and the functions of promoters document required to be submitted. Next, we are moving on with the second stage of formation of company, that is incorporation. So, after completing the formalities that we have seen, promoters have to make an application for the incorporation of the company. Okay, they have to make an application about the incorporation of company. Application is to be filed with the registrar of the companies of the state within which they wish to establish their office of the company. So the application of registration has to contain certain documents that we just saw. They have just given you a small gist of that. You can read this out. Okay. So So basically, after this, you see that the registrar, upon submission of the required documents that we have seen, has to be satisfied that the documents are in order and that all the statutory requirements regarding the registration have been completed with. However, it is not his duty to carry out investigation about the authenticity of the facts. Means the registrar does not have the is not liable to see if the facts that have been provided by the company is true or not. So when the registrar is satisfied about the completion of formalities for registration, a certificate for incorporation is issued to the company, which signify the birth of the company. So certificate of incorporation is also called as birth certificate of a company. Okay. Next, you have this small box, which is again very important. You have preliminary contract. So preliminary means before contracts, before the company is formed, those contracts. So during promotion of company, promoters enter into certain contracts with the third parties on behalf of your company. Before your promotion of company, the promoters of your company, they enter into contacts with the third parties on behalf of your company. These are called preliminary contracts or pre-incorporation contracts. These are not legally binding on the company. A company, after coming into existence, may, if it so chooses, decide to enter into fresh contracts with the same terms conditions to honor the contracts made by promoters. Okay, note that it cannot ratify a preliminary contract. A company cannot be forced to honor a preliminary contract. So company is not forced to abide by a preliminary contract. If it wishes to do so, it can. Promoters, however, remain personally liable to third parties for these contracts. Okay. Then you have your this is not coming. Then you have your director identification number. So this is basically your DIN. You have your DIN, CIN. CIN is company identification number. DIN is your director identification number. So every individual that is intending to become the director of company has to give an application as allotment of director identification number to the central government. In prescribed form, he has to submit a form, a written form, which will ask details about him or her, and he has to submit a fees which is required. Central government will allot a director identification number to an application within 1 month from the receipt of application. So within 1 month they have to give the DIN to the individual. No individual who has already been given the DIN should apply for another DIN. So if you have already been allotted DIN, you cannot apply for another DIN. Okay. Next, we are coming with the last stage of your formation of a company, that is your capital subscription. So capital subscription is only done in the case of public company. Public company can raise required funds from the public by the issue of securities like shares, debentures, and for doing so, it has to issue a prospectus. Now, what is a prospectus? Prospectus is a formal invitation to the public to subscribe to capital of a company and undergo various other formalities. The following steps are required for raising funds from public. So, how can you raise funds from public? First is your SEBI approval. Who is SEBI? SEBI is your Securities and Exchange Board of India. So SEBI is a regulatory authority in our country and has issued guidelines for the disclosure of information and investor protection. Public company investing funds from general public has to make disclosure of relevant information, and they should not conceal any material information from the potential investors. This is necessary for protecting the interest of the investors. So to protect the interest of investors, you need to have SEBI's approval. So prior approval from SEBI is therefore required before going ahead with raising funds from the public. Okay. Secondly, you have to, after you get your SEBI's approval, you will file a prospectus. So filing of prospectus is there. A company of prospectus, a copy of prospectus or statement of lieu. Statement of lieu is basically it is similar to your prospectus. Okay, so a copy of prospectus or statement in lieu of prospectus is filed with your registrar of company. Prospectus is any document which is described or issued as a prospectus, including notice. Okay, this all you don't have to know. Anyway, so going ahead, so therefore, there must not be a misstatement in the prospectus. There should not be anything that should be missed in your prospectus, and all significant information has to be disclosed in your prospectus so that potential investors know what are the advantages of investing in your company. Okay, third, you have to appoint bankers, brokers, underwriters. Bankers are those people who will, the application money is received by your bankers. Brokers, they will try to sell your shares by distributing forms, encouraging public to apply for the shares. And underwriters, see, when you are starting up a company, you might have hesitation whether your shares will get sold off or not, because as we'll see later, that minimum subscription has to be 90% has to be done by the company itself. So you might have a question that will my shares get sold off easily or not. So there you get your underwriters. A company is not mandatory to have an underwriter. If you want to appoint underwriters, you can do so. Underwriters, basically, they give you assurance that we will buy your shares in case people are not buying or people are not intending to buy them. So, underwriters undertake to buy the shares. If these are not subscribed by the public, they receive a commission. Of course, why are they working for a company? Because they are receiving a commission for underwriting the issue. Appointment of underwriters is not necessary. If a company wants or wishes to do so, company can. Fourth is minimum subscription. So, in order to prevent companies from commencing business with inadequate resources, it is provided that the company has to receive application for certain minimum number of shares before it goes ahead with allotment of shares. So this is called the minimum subscription. As per the SEBI's guideline, the limit of minimum subscription is 90% of the size of issue. A company has to issue 90% of the subscription, and 10% is done by the public. Thus, if applicants receive for the shares are of an amount which is less than 90% of the issue size, allotment cannot be made and the application money has to be returned to the applicants. All right. Fifth is application to stock exchange. So an application has to be made to at least one stock exchange for permission to deal in its shares and debentures. If the stock exchange denies with your permission, means if they deny, they do not want to work with you, is not granted before 10 weeks from the date of your closure of subscription list, the allotment has become void. Okay, and the money received from applicants have to be given back to them within 8 days. Sixth is allotment of shares. So till the time shares are allotted, application money received. So till the time you get your shares, application money has to be kept in a separate bank account and must not be used by the company. So that money what is with you cannot be used by the company. It has to be kept in a separate bank account. In case the in case the number of shares allotted is less than the number what you have applied for, okay, then the excess application money, if any, has to be returned to the applicants or adjusted towards allotment money due from them. Okay, so allotment letters are issued to the successful allottees. So if you become a allottee of a company, you get your allotment letters or return of allotment, which is signed by director of the company, has to be filed with the registrar of companies within 30 days of your allotment. Then this is a separate paragraph that they have given you. If a public company does not want to invite public to subscribe to its securities, which are its shares or debentures, instead it can raise funds through friends, families, relatives, or some private arrangement as a private company does. So in such case, you do not have to issue a prospectus. Prospectus is only issued when you want public to subscribe to your or contribute to your capital, but in this case we do not want that. So Instead of prospectus, you file a statement in lieu of prospectus with the registrar of companies at least 3 days before making the allotment. Next, we have the small topic, which is one person company. So basically, one person company is a company with only one person as its member. That one person will be the shareholder of the company, means the owner of the company, and avail all the benefits of a private limited company, such as separate legal entity, protecting personal assets from business liability, and perpetual succession. What are the characteristics of the OPC? First, you have natural person. All right, only a natural person, an Indian citizen and resident of India, can be eligible to incorporate a OPC. No person shall be eligible to incorporate more than one OPC or become nominee in more than one company. Okay, where a natural person being member of OPC in accordance with this rule becomes member in another such company by virtue of his being nominee in one OPC, such person shall meet the eligibility. Okay, so basically, where a natural person is the member of OPC. Usually, we say company is an artificial person, but over here we are saying it's a natural person, and he has to accordance with the rule with this rule becomes member in another in another company by virtue of his nominee in that of a OPC. So such person shall meet the eligibility criteria which is specified in your sub rule clause 2 within period of 180 days. All right. Fourth point is no minor can become member or nominee of a OPC or can hold shares of with beneficial interest. Fifth point, such company cannot incorporated or converted into a company under your section 8 of the act. So your OPC cannot be converted into a company under section 8. Sixth point, this such company cannot carry out non-banking financial investment activities. All right. Seventh point, no such company can convert voluntary into any kind of company unless 2 years have expired from their date of incorporation. Means OPC cannot be converted voluntary into a company unless 2 years have expired from date of incorporation of OPC. Okay, so basically after OPC we'll just see this important difference between MOA and AOA. So as I already said, your objectives. So MOA is the objectives of a company. MOA defines the objectives of for which the company is formed. AOA are the rules of the internal management of the company. They indicate how the objectives of the company are to be achieved, how the company should be running efficiently. Position, this MOA is your main document of the company and is subordinate to the Companies Act 2013. AOA is a subsidiary document, means it comes under your MOA and it is subordinate to your MOA and to your Companies Act. Relationship, MOA defines your relationship of company with outsiders, so it's basically with external relationship, while your AOA is a while your AOA defines relation with the members of the company, means it is internal relationship. Validity, acts which are beyond the MOA are invalid and cannot be ratified even by unanimous vote of the members. Means MOA, if any acts which are going against your MOA or beyond your MOA are considered invalid. Even if vote of the members are given, it cannot be considered valid. The acts which are beyond AOA have to be can be ratified by the members. Means even if your acts are beyond the AOA, they can be brought back only if they do not violate your MOA. All right, if they violate your MOA, it cannot be brought back. Okay, necessity, every company has to have a MOA, has to file your MOA. For AOA, it is not compulsory for public limited company to file a article of association. Means your public company is not compulsory, it's not compulsory for them to file a article of association. It may adopt table F of the Companies Act 2013. So with this, we are done with our seventh chapter as well. That was formation of company. I hope you liked the video. If you did, please don't forget to like and subscribe to my channel. Thank you.